Insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Yes, it is the only way to start your day. Good morning. So it's that day, February 5th, 2021. The first week of February officially over, and here we are, Friday. Coming in quickly. Good morning, C.T. Muga.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Did you say the first week of November? No, sorry.
I actually said February.
February is officially over. I don't know why February came into my mind, but...
Because it is actually the month of February.
It's Friday, isn't it?
It's Friday. Okay. It's February. It's the 5th.
Right.
So the first... We're getting into the weekend, so by the time the weekend is over, the first week of February.
The weekend actually ends tomorrow.
It does.
Yes, and the first day of the week, in actual fact, is actually Sunday. Not Monday. Monday is the second day of the week.
Yeah. So here we are. Welcome to the Situation Room. Nduoko and C.T. Muga. In the studio today, Eric Latif is not with us today, and he will be back in a few days. But here we are, and seeing a lot that's going on, and we're going to have those conversations with you this morning. Very many conversations to have today. We saw huge numbers. 14 million listed on CRB, and we're asking ourselves the question, what exactly is going on here? 14 million Kenyans have not been able to pay back their loans or just having been listed. So we're going to have a conversation with Metropole today, and we're going to see and open that up and figure out what exactly is going on. So also an immediate former governor of Nairobi having some problems. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, would it be if he was still in that seat? Respect the presidency. It's another thing that we've been told to do, and also leaders have been told to do. Respect the presidency. So we'll be having those conversations today. Stick with us where you are. And before we go into that and look at other things that are going on, let's look at coronavirus in numbers. CT, there's still COVID.
COVID isn't going to go away tomorrow, the day after, this year, the following year. It won't. What we are going to be, the position we're going to be in, is one where we know how to manage it, we know what to do with it. It will be like malaria for those of us who live in the tropics.
Yeah.
It doesn't really go away, but we know what to do with it. We know how to avoid it. We know what to do when you get it. We know.
It seems that folks are kind of forgotten that it's there, right? We know there's COVID, you need to wear a mask, you need to walk about, do what you need to do, protect yourself.
It's the fatigue.
But in terms of taking center stage in our minds, it seems to have
there's a
taken
limit to how long something can take center stage in your mind, especially when it causes anxiety, like a disease which threatens you with the death as well.
Yeah.
You get to a point, you get fatigued. You are tired of being tired and being frightened and being scared. So people simply say, liwe liwalo. Let whatever happens, happen.
Que sera, sera.
That is the thing. So with COVID, people were going to get to that point. And you see, that doesn't diminish the potency, it doesn't diminish the effect, it doesn't diminish the danger.
It's not less serious.
No.
Still less serious. Because what are we looking at now? 105 million 401,170 COVID-19 cases in the world. Now 2,292,729 deaths, unfortunately. We're still looking at high numbers coming out of the United States. 27,273,890, and now almost 500,000 deaths in the US as a result of COVID-19. So still high numbers there, and the stories of the vaccine continue to swirl in terms of, who's been able to purchase what. Let's look at Kenya specifically now. Kenya with 101,000 cases, 101,339 total number of cases that have been reported in the country. with 1,773 deaths. So that's what we're looking at. Yesterday, just looking at the numbers that have been reported over the last few days, 180 new cases, 4 new deaths in the country, with 150 the day before, with 3 new deaths. So, I mean, still low numbers being recorded. We were told that we shouldn't expect to see any kind of spike, especially with the opening of schools and such, until March. So there's still that expectation that we would see a spike in March. But again, these cases that are being recorded in the country are only those that show up in hospital, or those who may need to travel and then do their tests. Okay, so let's look at other stories coming out of Kenya now. The government has been urged to reinstate COVID-19 relief measures to aid the economy. Now, if you look at look at COVID from an economic point of view, the government of Kenya is being asked to really consider helping folks out because the economy still has not gotten to where it needs to be. So the Institute of Certified Investments and Financial Analysts called on the government to reinstate relief measures to cover Kenyans against evolving effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Looking at the state of public debt and the evolution of the pandemic, they're urging cushioning to both businesses and households, saying it remains crucial in managing the effects of the crisis. By the time the government instituted this, 6 months down the line, it was done. And there really is none in terms of resources to get this going again. So they're saying it's necessary for the government to help people. It's necessary for the government to help Kenyans to make sure that they don't continue to suffer the adverse effects of COVID-19, which is still happening now. It may just be advice here in terms of how it's going to be taken up. I don't know that can happen. I don't know right now that the government has the wherewithal or the desire to go back in there. They're just going to open things up and hope that it continues well. I don't see it changing. I don't see them instituting relief measures once again. There's just going to be hoping against hope that things pick up and that people are able to go back to work and that children are in school and then people can do their businesses. But in terms of lending a hand and saying going to be involved once again in the liquidity of households and businesses, I don't see it happening.
At the peak of any pandemic, the one thing that is usually completely unclear is whether or not it will actually ever come to an end. Because we're engulfed in the throes of just the worry and the concern and the anxiety that has to do with the disease, the possibility of acquiring it and the consequences of it. At the peak of the HIV pandemic, it was the scariest thing anyone could ever contemplate, think about, worry about. We now behave as though it's just an anecdotal footnote in our conversations when we talk about diseases. Yeah, HIV, okay. It's not headline news.
No.
It is not a big issue. Why? People have learned to live with HIV. They've understood it better. In the same way, COVID will be understood better.
Yep. It will.
You see, if you look at just the number of trials that exist on this planet, you're talking about the various phases at which the trials are at, the number of vaccines that have reached the level where, one, they've been allowed for limited use, the ones which have actually been okayed for general use, and the ones which are in the pipeline, and then the percentage of efficacy or efficaciousness that they have, it keeps improving. And believe me, you will find that there'll be vaccines that you'll be told these ones are better for people who are elderly. This one is better for people who have pre-existing conditions. It will come. You'll even have choices as to what to take and what not to take. But amidst all this, there's always the pushback of people who are skeptical. People who are not very sure that you should just embrace it because you've been told it is good. That you should question, you should be concerned, and you should continue questioning. Some simply say, just dismantle the whole discussion. Let's not bother with it. It is harmful. We have a position on it, and we will not move from it.
And we will not move from it.
But that is the nature of.
Well, I guess so. The UN is encouraged that for the third week now, we're seeing a constant decline in the cases globally. It has fallen now for the third week in a row. The World Health Organization reported Monday and still urging countries not to let up on efforts to defeat the disease. So across the globe now, they're encouraging numbers that this thing is dropping. We're not seeing the high numbers that we saw about just as we came into the year. Whatever that could be attributed to, totally different discussion. But it's encouraging, according to the United Nations, from these reports that come from the World Health Organization, but then to encourage countries to still do what they need to do to make sure that those numbers don't rise.
Numbers
again.
had begun to become encouraging before summer. The spikes that we had been seeing, what we then heard was spikes, and then we started hearing of a new peak and the anticipation of yet a new one. And the trends were not difficult to follow because what preceded the spikes were a let-up of the restriction that had been there. Consistently so. A let-up on the restrictions, you can more or less predict clockwork. This is what is going to happen. But remember, summer came at a time when prior to it, there had been so many restrictions. It's like people were bottled up. And there was this need to let fly, to let loose.
Yeah.
And in letting loose, the virus was let even looser. So it is wreaking havoc now. Yes. And then winter came. Now with winter, it came with its own demons.
Totally different kettle of fish exactly than with winter.
Yes.
And then we must also realize that winter is here. Flu season is coming back, especially in the Western Hemisphere, looking at the US and then coming to certain parts of Europe. Flu season will be back again, which again kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. Hopefully now, with the measures that have been taken to really take care of COVID-19, we will see that that'll change. And then we're asking ourselves, why is it important to continue talking about what's going on in Western nations when it happens, when COVID is concerned? That really has nothing to do with us here on the continent. But then, you know what? We still are living in a global village. That people are traveling back and forth. And we've seen that the effects of COVID, if it was just that it affected one country and didn't move to the next, then maybe. But you're dealing with something that can so easily be passed. All somebody needs to do is take a trip from one country to the next. And we saw how that spread around the world. So being aware of what's going on in other countries is very important, because then that helps us to be able to plan. And it should help us to be able to plan on this other side of the pond.
Remember, if you're talking about news, and often with reference to the pervasive nature of it sometimes, the West ensure that their perspective of the news is brought to your face, literally.
Yep.
So it is there. And whatever news channel, and they will ensure it captures the front row. They'll ensure it captures the topmost. It will be there. So much as you may think you want to be democratic about what to consume, it's like it's a predetermined situation. You will consume what is there in plenty.
In plenty, absolutely. Yes. All right, this is the Situation Room. It is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're going to take a look at what's happening in the skies for now, and then we're going to come back and say hello to you, whoever is joining us in the room this morning. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Nduoko and Siti Muga in the studio this morning. Eric Latif is away. We'll come back, look at weather, and then say hello to you as the conversations begin.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, starting off in Nairobi this morning, 17 degrees clear at this point. We're going to go to highs of 29 and lows of 17 today. Nyeri is clear at 13, going to highs of 26. Chance of rain, but slightly so. 14 degrees and clear in Nakuru. The high will be 29 today, coming down to lows of 16. Clear conditions in Eldoret at 13, highs of 27 and lows of 14. It's 22 degrees and clear in Kisumu, highs of 32. 16 degrees, morning, mostly clear in Kakamega, highs of 31 and lows of 18. We're looking at clear conditions in Mombasa at 25, highs of 33. Highs of 32 in Malindi, mostly cloudy at 26. 22 degrees, clear in Kampala, stepping out of Kenya, highs of 28 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is clear this morning at 27. Clear skies, a few clouds here and there, highs of 32 and lows of 26. It's mostly cloudy in Johannesburg at 17 degrees, highs of 22 and lows of 15. Where in Lagos it's clear at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. It's also clear in Kinshasa for now. Likelihood of rain later, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Sunny conditions in Beijing at 4, going into the afternoon now. 12 degrees the high and lows of -6. It's cloudy in Paris at 7, highs of 12 and coming back down to lows of 7. We're in London at 8 degrees. It's mostly cloudy, highs of 11 and lows of 4. And we'll round things out in New York on Thursday night. It's still clear at 3. Coming into Friday, we will see highs of 4 and lows of 0.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
Yeah! You're listening to Spice FM. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef
This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Tune in this Friday morning on the 5th of February in the studio this morning with myself, Nduoko, and Siti Muga. Wherever you're tuned in from, the live streams are up. If you're tuned in specifically in Nairobi, 94.4, but around the country, and the live streams are up on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Spice FM KE. So let's say hello to everybody who's tuned in this morning. Master Dan is tuned in from Beijing. Locked says good morning. Robert and Bogo tuned in from Mombasa. Good morning, guys. Dagi Oguta, good morning, Situation Room, my good people. It's the first Friday of February. It is. Already tuned in from Nyabola, Nyakach. JJ is tuned in from Kiambu. Mnapatikana kwa mitabendi. Mitabendi? City, what's mitabendi?
I honestly have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Meter, as in bandwidth, perhaps.
Aha! It's possible.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a wild guess.
Okay. It could make sense.
Yes.
Juja were here, according to Moses Kashari, tuned in, and he says the vaccination is for 24 counties who will pass the BBI. Interesting. Okay. Honorable Reagan Hanskel Nyandinga Jr. is locked coming into Nairobi. So Moses Kashari tuned in from Juja. Cyprian Mora says, good morning, Nduoko and Siti Muga. It's Friday. Thanking God for the amazing week it has been. Yes, indeed. Levin Douala Lola says, good morning. Harold Ayodo is tuned in and he says, hope Eric Latif is well. He is well. The Reverend is well. And from Imara Daima, Inyati is tuned in this morning, as is Lawrence Carrier tuned in. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on in the headlines this morning. Lots of things going on. CT, where are you?
Well, something that is, should I say, of interest.
Can I stop you before you go of interest?
Yes.
I think we need to give you today's proverb.
You think it is useful that I give today's proverb?
I do.
And I was just going to talk about this wonderful thing that is happening in the flower industry.
Okay. Hold on. Give us a proverb first.
All right.
And then.
He who fears the sun will not be chief. He fears the sun, as in S-U-N, not S-O-N, will not be chief.
Not be chief. Okay. You're going to explain this one to us at some point.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yes, I will. Remember what we associate the sun with. Warmth,
Light,
light,
energy.
daylight. And the list goes on.
Okay. Now, you were excited about flies.
Yeah, no. Flowers.
Oh, flowers.
Not flies. Not flies.
Okay.
You are probably thinking of the book, The Lord of the Flies.
Well, okay.
All right. Now, something interesting is happening in the flower world. It is being reported that flower firms are now employing more people than they did even before COVID entered our shows. It is being reported, signals the continued recovery of the sector that was once the hardest hit by the pandemic.
Okay.
And this is according to a central bank survey. They say firms have confirmed that there is an increase in the employees in readiness for the peak season that runs from January to May.
So that means that there's a demand then from the countries where they had previously...
The demand was always there in the sense, but remember everybody was locked up.
Yeah.
So when there was a lockdown, I'm calling it an artificial absence of demand was created. Because you couldn't do what you normally did.
Yeah.
You couldn't go out. And if you couldn't go out, then there's certain things you couldn't buy. So that is changing. Remember, we are learning to live with the virus. We are understanding how, yes, even with the existence of the virus, we can go about our business as usual, albeit being a little more careful than we were before, but we can carry on with our regular and normal activities.
Okay. I think it's very interesting, though, that there's a demand higher than that which was before COVID came in. So it just shows the malleability of several economies that, you know what, we could have had a slowdown as far as some things were concerned, but you would always come back, that no situation is permanent. I think this is a good thing, and I think it's quite encouraging because we saw this as one of the hardest hit sectors, that thousands of people lost their jobs. There were no flights going. There was no cargo. There was, there are many companies who essentially went down. So to see that this is rising now, I think it's good. Good start into 2021.
You see, the questions arise whenever you talk about a survey. Questions will arise and say, okay, so who exactly did you talk to? Well, the people, 8 major flower farms in Naivasha and 2 in Nakuru had the questionnaire administered to them, and the target population were the chief executives, senior managers, and people who would have an overall knowledge of the performance of that particular sector. Because after all, they are the ones who determine whether people get employed or not.
Or not.
Yes.
Okay.
And remember, this particular sector employs over 500,000 people. So if you translate that into households, it means the employment affects over 2 million households.
Right.
Yes. Enough said.
Oh, so looking up then, I think that's not too bad.
No, it is actually very good indeed.
Okay, let's look at another place where things might not be looking too good. Auctioneers failed to get buyers for seized assets worth billions. We had this conversation a few weeks ago, looking at the fact that, okay, so this is happening. People's property then being taken. Should you be afraid or not afraid of auctioneers? Well, it seems that they seem to have been taken a hit, because the property that they essentially are taking from people who are unable to pay, they are now not able to sell. Auctioneers are struggling to find buyers for property worth billions of shillings repossessed from owners that have defaulted on loans. This comes on the back of an unprecedented increase in the number of non-performing loans arising from the coronavirus pandemic, with lenders moving to sell assets as the grace period on loan repayments lapses. So that grace period, January, that kind of left. One of the country's leading auctioneers, Garam Investments, is looking at a portfolio of more than 10.6 billion shillings in residential property as well as acres of land, some which have failed to find buyers for more than a year. According to the latest marketing catalogue from the auctioneer listing 161 properties, 1 billion shillings worth of property is falling under the hammer in the next 2 weeks alone, even as more assets are expected to be repossessed by lenders in the coming months. The high-value properties listed include 832 acres in Naivasha that was meant to be high-end Aberdare Hills Golf Resort. The property was planned to have an 18-hole World Championship golf course, clubhouse, 5-star hotel and villas. However, the project has stalled over the past few years, and last February, Garam auctioneers listed it for 1.12 billion. So far, no takers have come forth. No takers because they're just not interested, or no takers because folks don't have money to purchase these properties that they ordinarily would.
Do those who have money have money? But is that where they want to put their money right now? You're talking about a golf course. You're talking about a resort. Who is going to go there?
Who's traveling now anyway?
How
for
are
holiday?
you going to? Yes, I mean, it's a business that depends on people actually and visiting it, going there.
Patronize, yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Now, with the current climate that we have, no one is doing such activities are at a minimum. So what do you expect is going to happen?
Well, that's it.
Even if you sell it for a song, the problems that have been brought about by COVID, if you go by what you look at historically, you will find that it's a time when many people will lose out, but there are many others who will make a bundle.
Yeah.
Just depending on where or on which side of the economic divide that the pandemic finds you, there are people who not only will reap, have reaped, are reaping, and will continue reaping. Yes. For instance, just think of those who are in the online business, internet providers and what have you.
Yep.
They're having a boom.
Boom. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Everybody needs them to perform their business now.
Precisely. So things that people sort of like, yeah, maybe perhaps now it's become a must. If you look at people who are in the business of online shopping, they are making money hand over fist. Talking about hand over fist, those who grow coffee in this country, the coffee prices, if we were to go by the auction margins and figures that are presented, have jumped up slightly. Slight improvement. Okay? Now, the cost of a 50 kilogram bag hit 33.99, that's Kenyan shillings, okay, 1,000 shillings, on average from 33.88. It's around 99. It was previously 88. Now, it may look like that 10 shilling jump is not much. But if you consider that this thing is not sold only in 50 kilograms, it's sold in tons.
In tons.
Yes. Then that margin becomes significant.
That's a big deal.
Well, it is hoped that it will improve even more because, remember, one of the things that happens when people do not move much, they consume more food. Yes.
Exactly, and that's what you would expect because they're at home and they're basically at home.
Yes.
And they will be consuming more.
But the dairy farmers are also set to enjoy better returns. This, again, is according to the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay? Now, this was something that was brought forth by the CES for Agriculture, Peter Munya, during a dairy regulation stakeholders briefing in Nairobi. Okay? What am I saying? I am saying that one of the things that anyone who is looking at the signs and the times in which we live in is a hope that people who are in business, whatever business, whether you're in the agribusiness, whether you are industrialist, whether you're in commerce, that there will be some bright financial light shining in your direction. Yes. So even the slightest possible move, I believe, should be mentioned.
It looks like things are on the up and up.
It would appear so.
Even as slight as it is, that there are still, that it's going to get better, that it will get better. Okay, this is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We are going to take a break and look at what's going on the roads right now and see how traffic is looking right now. We're going to come back and discuss Uhuru's dismay at Ruto's impatience. That's on the front page of The Standard. Keep it here.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Cambu Road that's heading towards Nairobi just before the CID, involving several cars, causing an early morning jam and overlappers, making it even worse. So crazy traffic already on Cambu Road as you then try to join this thicker superhighway. So that's already a mess that's been created there, guys. This one we have to brace up for. If you're heading in that direction, that's what is going on now. So if you can avoid it, please do. If you've not left, you might want to rethink it and stay for a few minutes. All right, let's take a look then at Mombasa Road heading out into the city. It's slow right around the SGR at Syokimau. We'll come out towards General Motors and it'll open up a little bit and then close down again, unfortunately, right around the Capital Center as you head towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. We see some outbound traffic coming out of Westlands heading towards Kangemi, out towards Limuru. It's expected. It is Friday and still in the beginning of the month. So folks are going to be traveling out that way this morning. Umoja and Caltex Outer Ring towards Westlands, Riverside Drive. That's a bit slow right now. Let's keep an eye on how this opens up as the morning inches along. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's know what you see. Text us also on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Friday morning, shall we?
Spice up your life.
There's so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafande hii umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
It's the only way to start your day. Wherever you're tuned in from, Nairobi 94.4, Malindi at 97.7, Kisumu 102.5, 90.9 in Nyeri, Eldoret 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, and 87.9 in Mombasa. If you're online, Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. That's how you can join us this morning as we go into big conversations for the day. Right now, we're looking at the headlines, and you know what? Uhuru's dismayed at Ruto's impatience. So yesterday there was a memorial service for the late Mzee Moi. And according to reports, we hear that President Kenyatta has condemned the arrogance of leaders. He's called for respect and humility. And he's basically once again said that enough is enough. He's urged leaders to emulate Moi's famed push for peace, love and unity. So he's expressed concerns about the rising political intolerance and ethnic tensions, saying the actions by a few politicians do not bode well for the nation. I'm going to quote what he said, that the arrogance we see today by some of the political leaders seeking to lead the country after I retire is worrying. It has raised many challenges and leaves me wondering what future this country has. So it would seem that he's a spot worried right now. The arrogance and hate will not help. Respect and humility is paramount. It is good to remind ourselves as a nation where we have come from, the journey we have traveled, and where we want to see this country in the future. He was speaking yesterday when he led Kenyans in marking the first anniversary of the death of former President Daniel Arap Moi at Kabarak in Nakuru County. He recalled the role played by Moi in fostering peace and ensuring the country remained united in the face of increasing political and ethnic tensions. So it would appear that this was a perfect opportunity for him to talk about what is currently going on in the country, remembering a man whom he says pushed for peace in the country at many times. So it would seem that once again, where we think that he's not listening or hearing all these things that are being said, he's saying, come on, guys, we need to get it together. We need to bring about this respect and respect me. Even if you don't respect me and he said it again now, even if you don't respect me as an individual, respect the presidency.
You know, there's something that I think is often not taken seriously by people who pursue, seek, and sometimes even attain political leadership is the things they say. At a certain time, certain things are convenient and they seem to meet the need you have, and the narrative also fits in perfectly with an agenda that you have.
Yeah.
Time being what it is, you will find that some of those utterances are anything but pleasant, and they're everything, and they're regrettable.
Do you think when he makes these statements in public, when he says, because the story goes on to tell us about how who was in attendance, right? He was among senators, he was among governors, he was amongst very many people, leaders who came out and gave their glowing tributes of the late President Moi. Now, do you think that when he says these things, they hear him and say, actually, you know what? We've gone off our rockers just a little bit in some of the things that we are saying. Now that he said it in public for the whole country to hear, maybe it's about time we reined in this attitude and said, okay, let's
But he himself
listen.
has participated in that very same thing. You could say that it was during the time of campaigning and politicizing. But you see, people listening to you do not just see it as a narrative. They believe. There are many people who believe exactly what you're saying. And they act on it. The influence that leaders have on the populace who support them is something that they must take seriously. And they must be also responsible for the outcomes of the things that they say. At whatever time, when it's during a campaign, you say it so that it suits the purposes you have then, well, yes, those purposes are met. But at a later date, it's not as though the influence and the impact will suddenly vanish. It doesn't vanish. It's there. It may manifest itself in a way that you didn't want it to, but it's there.
It's there.
Yes. When your utterances are clearly ethnic tainted, ethnic directed, or they're specific against an individual, or it's a narrative that places you in a certain way. And I'm saying this, whether it's in the past or the present, it doesn't matter who the politician is. The day of reckoning comes. And the very things that you've uttered are the ones which will judge you, not other people, your utterances. Because you say things which are now contrary to what you said. And the question is, but sir, did you not say this at a particular point in time? Have you changed your mind, or what did you mean then and what do you mean now?
Or would you give the reason that you were in the throes of a campaign and that you really didn't have a check over what you were saying, or were the things that you say intentional to bring some kind of disrespect to the seat?
If you are seeking a political seat, there is also the question of responsibility, because you are seeking not a political seat, but a seat of responsibility. Now, when does the responsibility start? Does it start when you get the job, or does it start at the time when you're looking for it? Where does it start? I would venture to say that it starts at the time when not only you're looking for it, but at the time of you need to be exuding a certain sense of responsibility, or you need to manifest it if you really are seeking a position of leadership. Now, if you have alternate perspectives, when I'm seeking leadership, I will utter these sort of things which I don't really take responsibility for. And when I'm in leadership, I will say things that sound more responsible. It doesn't work that way.
You're fickle if you do that.
We will remember everything that is said. And when I say we, I'm talking about the media. It never goes anywhere. It is recorded for posterity. And at the time, it will be brought out and you'll be told, this is what you said. Not what we thought.
This is what you said. You said it.
Okay, so tell us, what did you mean at this point in time?
And what do you expect us to think as a result of that?
Remember, not very long ago, we had the MP for Kandara. She was talking to us. And she raised the same thing with the president. Said, Mr. President, some of the things they're saying, you told us. Specific, you told us. Now, when a leader speaks, you really must understand the import of what you're saying and the effect it will have. You can't plead innocence and not know, say you don't know. You do know. That's why you say the things you say. Because you know exactly, the impact you want to make, and you know exactly what the outcome will be.
We're going to be having this conversation after 7 and looking at the respect for the presidency and saying, okay, absolutely necessary for leaders, number one, to respect the presidency because it could be their turn later. So we'll talk about this in the next hour. It's just interesting as we close on this story. He says, President Uhuru Kenyatta, that at the beginning of my presidency, and this is a quote from him directly, it was tough for me to come here to visit Mzee Moi. He would rise up from his seat in respect and say, Karibu, Your Excellency. And I think the point he was trying to drive home there is that if this man who sat in the presidency for 24 years could stand up and say to me, Karibu, Your Excellency, how much more the rest of you who are here, who are clearly under me and you can't even respect it. In fact, you don't just not respect it, you hurl insults at me as the person sitting in this seat. And this cannot continue to happen anymore.
We will be having this discussion later on. And if you want to look at an underlying thread in all these things, is the far-reaching consequences of utterances that are, in my opinion, and the consequences not given adequate thought. Because the truth is they will have an effect. Yes. How far-reaching, you may not be able to tell, but when those particular chickens come home to roost, then you come face to face with the outcomes of the utterances that you made. Yes.
Okay, looking at other headlines in the paper today. Kenya lost 330 million shillings in a football tournament scandal. And it seems to have found its way to the front page of The Nation. And Sports CS Amina Mohammed with Meru Governor Kiraitu Murungi and other officials during an inspection tour of Kinoru Stadium on the 4th of February. This is when this story came out. Kenya not only lost an opportunity to host a continental football tournament in 2018, but also hundreds of millions of shillings in taxpayers' money, it has emerged. The Ministry of Sports officials yesterday said they paid 330.5 million shillings to a company that was to help with the preparations of the African Nations Cup, or the CAN 2018. But the firm closed shop almost immediately. Former sports Principal Secretary Kirimi Kaberia said the government cannot trace the owners of Auditel Engineering and Services. So they paid this money, then the shop closed, and then they can't find them. And
really?
The continental tournament
and
did not take
when
place.
They paid them, where did they find them?
Oh, to pay them is not a problem. But
where were they?
Here in Kenya.
All right.
Registered.
So now that they've been paid, suddenly they become the invisible persons. They cannot be found.
They closed shop, bank accounts have been closed.
I really do find this a little difficult to believe.
Do you?
I most certainly do. In this day and age.
Can't find somebody.
There's something called a digital footprint. Okay? You may think you don't have it or you haven't left it, but you do. Just by participating in certain activities, financial otherwise, you leave a footprint and you can be followed and you can be found. We had an issue with certain dams that were in the Rift Valley. And those in charge of such investigations took the time to investigate. Did they not find the people who were involved wherever they were? They weren't even in the country. If indeed the institutions who are charged with such functions are given the mandate and the freedom to pursue and to look for these people. They will find them.
They'll find them if they really want to. 330 million shillings is not chicken change. And there must be a trace.
Actually, what it therefore means is then the then PS for sports, Mr. Kirimi Kiberia, who is now the mining PS, has a
case to answer.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely.
Yes, he does. Because this is our money, which was spent for something we didn't get.
Yeah, the tournament didn't take place.
But we paid.
Yes.
Okay? It's not any different from any of these interesting, spurious activities that we have paid for, but whose content and whose image we never quite see.
We never quite see.
He has to respond.
Okay.
You see, it even gives credence to KEMSA. At least things were provided.
At least we saw, even if they're in a warehouse somewhere.
They came.
All right, we're going to take a break right now on the situation. Taking a look at what's happening in the headlines. We'll be back in a bit.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
From 1902, the Standard Group has transformed to help steer the ship in the right direction and become one of the leading media houses in Africa. With 4 TV channels, 3 radio stations, robust digital platform, and numerous progressive initiatives, we are everywhere our audiences are. We don't just bring content, but content that inspires and motivates the people who've supported us over the years. It is the pillar that will forever cement and uphold our heritage as the Standard Group. The Standard Group. It's our future's heritage.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is Kenya's biggest conversation. You tune into the Situation Room this morning with Nduoko and Siti Muga. We're looking at what's happening in the headlines. Siti, what else?
You know why I seem pensive? This matter we're discussing just before the break. You know, investigations were never even instituted.
No, it just kind of came out like,
I'm saying that even the committee that was looking into this was surprised that as soon as the money was paid, there was an office in Lavington. The two disappeared. Then PSs moved. There's a gentleman who now became PS for sports, Mr. Okudo. He also had two. He said 2 Caucasian men came to his office demanding more money. And he said he needed to seek advice from the Attorney General's office. The 2 people never came back. Now, what caught my attention is he's quoted as having said that he gave them the time of day because they look like the real owners. And I asked,
how do real owners look like?
There's an eerie feeling I'm getting here. And let me explain what I mean. This is Ministry of Sports. Perhaps what needs to be done is an audit of every ministry that we have and every payment that we have made in the recent and in the past, so that we can understand whether we actually paid for things which genuinely exist or we just paid out money because money needed to be paid. It has to be done. So that KEMSA stops taking center stage in our discussions.
There's so many other things
going
on.
So that we look at other cases that are similar. All right.
Absolute mess here, it would seem. Okay. Sonko to spend 5 more days in the cells. Immediate former governor of Nairobi will spend 5 more days in the cells. Let's look at the details of this particular story. It's carried on the Standard and The Nation. The Nation reports it as thus. Okay, so after court cases after Former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko will spend 5 more days in custody after 2 magistrates declined to give a decision on setting him free. At Kiambu Law Courts, where the former county boss has been arraigned for several days, including several charges, including assault, Chief Magistrate Stella Atambo said she was not ready to make a ruling on his bail applications. The situation was similar at Kahawa West Law Court, where Mr. Sonko was driven in the afternoon. So, 2 different cases, 2 different places, and 2 different charges. The Director of Public Prosecutions asked for permission to hold Sonko for 30 days to give police time to conclude investigations into terrorism-related charges facing him. Chief Magistrate Diana Mochache declined to issue a ruling on the matter. She postponed the hearing of the application by the DPP to Tuesday. This was after Sonko's defense team, led by Senior Counsel John Haminwa, Mr. Asa Nyakundi, and Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, protested the DPP's application. In submissions, the defense team argued that the terrorist activities linked to the former governor are complex and need time for us to prepare before the application is heard. The lawyers argue that there is need to evaluate the application made by the prosecution to enable them to respond to its contents effectively. So there are many things going on here. A charge somewhere else. And at the same time, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka pleaded for the former governor's freedom, saying he is ready to counsel him. If that's what is needed, he would actually take that up. So he's been in custody since Monday, being shuffled from one court to another. The governor has made a name for himself by switching to Deputy President William Ruto's camp and hurling insults at the president. Musyoka even offered to talk to Sonko to change his ways if he's freed. Mike Sonko is our son, he said. He comes from my backyard. I request you hand over the young man to me. We know he has insulted you. We know, this is what he told the president in Nakuru during the anniversary of the death of retired President Moi. I plead for forgiveness on his behalf. And this is what Musyoka said, asking for the release of Sonko, and he would take him into his charge and, set him right, counsel him, do what needed to be done. He's our son, after all.
Isn't he just? And has he suddenly become our son? Has he always been our son?
C'est la question.
Sorry?
That is the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you have
Can
to.
I intelligently guess that the language you just spoke was French?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Right. We interviewed the former Prime Minister of the country, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who prefers to be known as Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Full stop. And we asked a very specific question about his intentions, whether his name will be on the ballot for the presidency, and the response he gave us was categorically clear. However, the section on politics in the Star on page 4 and 5, this is the headline. Kenyatta's men pushing for Mudavadi presidency. There's a, if I may use a word from that particular language, that déjà vu.
Yes.
Okay? There's a foreboding about this because this isn't the first time this has been heard.
No.
Okay? And if we were to use history as a reference point, I would be very careful. And why would I be careful? Because whenever you have an election around the corner, all sorts of narratives come out of the woodworks. There's a preference for this, and people say this, and people say the other. It's as though there will not be an election and people will not be, the citizenry of the country will not actually have the chance to decide who they think should be
their leader.
Yeah, precisely. It's as though, it's discussed as though those who discuss such things at whatever level are the ones who more or less predetermine who they believe ought to be the leader.
But it would appear so. That seems to be a hand of predetermination playing. That folks, that your civic duty in this sense, when it comes to the vote, is an exercise in futility. That's the appearance that is there for a lot of people. That this thing is already determined, and the powers that be, using all kinds of state machinery, are going to put who they want in.
Then maybe let's ask the question. This comfort that the supposed insiders, who are otherwise often known as deep state, or who are otherwise known as the kitchen cabinet, and etc. and etc. So what are these values that they look for in a would-be successor with whom they would find comfort? What is it that they look for? Maybe we'll discuss this at a later date, because every time we have an election coming up, this discussion always takes place. And there'll be leaders who will be demonized. And unfortunately, Raila Odinga has been at the sharp end, has received the sharp end of this demonizing for the longest time.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
That is the way it has looked. Well, okay, yeah. So I mean, we're going to continue talking about it and see what that, because really, in the grand scheme of things, where do Kenyans or anybody who votes for that matter really feel they stand in terms of importance when it comes to selection of a leader? Or do you really feel that there's somebody else who's pulling the puppet strings and that they are the ones who are making it work? It will be interesting to see how that is. Okay. So Gicheru was in detention at The Hague for 3 months. He's been released, right? And he's in Kenya telling his story. And he talks about the fact that for 93 days, he brushed shoulders with the world's most dangerous criminals. And now that he's back, it looks like this is not a place that he wants to go to again. After 3 months of brushing shoulders with the world's most dangerous criminals, convicts and indictees, lawyer Paul Gicheru quietly got back into the country on Tuesday. In his own words, it was not at all that bad at the Hague-based International Criminal Court detention center. On November 1st, 2020, he slithered out of the country, taking himself to the ICC and leaving behind a cloud of confusion, mistrust and suspicion as to what was his actual mission in the Netherlands. He had been a wanted man for years, wanted over claims of interfering with court witnesses, as they regarded earlier cases involving President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. The cases crumbled over lack of evidence. Sitting in his office for the first time after 3 months at the ICC detention center in The Hague, Gicheru, in a jovial mood, like a man who has had a burden lifted off his shoulders, said he is a happy man. From the setting of his magnificent office, Gicheru explained his lonely sojourn to The Hague despite having a court order slamming the brakes at the ICC. He said life at the detention center was good and comfortable, and he was given good treatment by both the Netherlands government and the court, and he had access to whatever he wanted. This Hague detention center doesn't seem so bad, eh?
You're talking about a country that actually understands and applies the rule of the law with regards to human rights.
Listen to this. I was given my own room at the detention center. The rooms were good, with a television and a personal computer connected to the internet. I could also eat whatever I wanted, but could buy food at times if what I wanted was not on the menu. Just so you know, it's not a hotel we're talking about. It's a detention center with the world's worst criminals and convicts.
The world's worst criminals and convicts bit, that one I don't buy.
Don't buy it, eh?
No.
Listen, while not attending court, Gicheru said they were allowed to roam freely within the detention center and meet other detainees. And it is here that he met Uganda's rebel leader and commander of the Lord's Resistance Army, Dominic Ongwen. See, these are the people that he's frolicking with.
What?
The detention center.
Look, a meeting of minds, similar-minded people, people who have been indicted, who have been accused of crimes against humanity, isn't it? Accused. Yeah. Though it is now
and convicted. Don't go and convicted now,
yes,
as of yesterday,
I was
right?
heading in that particular direction. I was saying yes, he was.
Yeah,
he was. Makes him one of the world's most dangerous people? No. Some of the world's most dangerous criminals are not even behind bars, and they masquerade as leaders. And they masquerade as presidents, they masquerade as prime ministers, they masquerade as political leaders. Some even masquerade as religious leaders because the harm they cause are long-lasting.
It's true.
It's not a question of at the end alive. No. They do irreparable damage to the lives of people and the psyche of people. Now, those are criminals, and no one ever really brings them to book.
It's interesting because now that Gicheru has been given a new lease on life, he's asking and urging Kenyans that... please, they should endeavor to keep peace and harmony and live together as brothers and sisters, irrespective of their differences. Because what his eyes saw, he's not ready to go back there again. And he's urging Kenyans, please, you have an opportunity to instill and maintain peace. Please, do it.
Bladderdash. Look, we live in peace and harmony on a daily basis until our living in peace and harmony is interfered with. We get along fine. We live with each other fine. It's interfered with. people come and stir that pot and introduce norms and values that were not there before. And before the dust settles, people have died, harm has been caused, people have been injured, houses have been burnt. That's what happens. Before they come and actually stir this pot, we are fine. We get along fine. And the issues we have, we know how to resolve. Yes.
It's very interesting, though, that it takes a situation like this for somebody to realize, or maybe, hoping to give that kind of message like, you should actually don't do anything that's going to put you in a situation whereby your peace will be taken away.
It's a good attempt at a cleansing exercise. His role in the problems we had in 2007 and 8 are known. Okay? So, that role isn't going to go away. Perhaps he should spend a little more time talking to his creator. He's very good at the business of forgiving and setting you right and understanding how you ought to behave. But statements of this sort, where I'm sitting, don't hold water. People make them all the time, and they've gotten to a point where they mean next to nothing. Yes. See, people should live in peace and harmony. We are living in peace and harmony until we're interfered with.
Thank you very much for the message. Essentially, is what you're saying to him, CT.
No, I'm saying talk to yourself.
Okay.
Yes, really.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're going to come back and continue with our conversations right now. It is 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
All right, let's look at how this might have changed now. Right about 7 o'clock, we still have that crazy situation on Kiambu Road. There was an accident earlier on this morning, and that means that traffic then connecting to the Thika Superhighway is an absolute mess. There's traffic outbound coming out of Kangemi, Westlands, going towards Limuru, that we expect to see. But then on Mombasa Road, it's actually built up quite some, all the way through to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. So it looks like this is going to be that Friday. No, that Friday. It's this one today. All right. If you might get stuck somewhere, just to let us know. At least we can maybe offer you the option of using the bypasses, Eastern and Southern. You can use those to get into and out of the CBD, onto and out of Thika Road and Mombasa Road consecutively. Try that. It probably will work. Talk to us, however, on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let us know where you might be stuck. And also text 40127.
There are so many people peddling what is false, and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is into the Situation Room this morning, tuned in with Nduoko and CT Muga. And we want to say welcome to our audience on KTN Home this morning, as we are here live on radio for 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, Nyeri at 90.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, and 97.7 in Malindi. Live streams are also up, tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And right now, also for the next 2 hours on KTN Home, Karibuni Sana, as the conversations continue this morning. Before we get into it this morning, as usual, we're going to hear from the proverbial City Muga. Today's proverb, City.
From someone who simply reads proverbs to being proverbial. Okay.
It's a good thing, no?
It's called forward movement.
Yes.
He who fears the sun will not become chief. And sun here is S-U-N, not S-O-N. Yes.
He who fears the sun will not become chief.
As you think about it, it's not very cryptic. Think of the virtues that the sun has, the qualities. Yes. When you list them, then the proverb becomes a lot simpler and easier to understand.
Well, all right then. I'm sure we're going to get details as to exactly how that works or how that can be explained. Okay, so yesterday, for maybe the second or third time in a very short period, we heard from the president calling for respect to this seat and to this office, asking that, you know what, guys, the way in which I've seen, the way in which I've heard, the many insults that have been hurled at us, have been hurled at me as the president of this country, it's about time this stopped. And calling for respect, calling from humility. And he himself now saying, with what he has seen in the recent past, just days ago, it was necessary that certain virtues now come into place, especially for leaders who are looking for a seat moving forward in the country, asking for respect, asking for tolerance, asking for humility, because he's seen the way in which things can actually go a little bit crazy, and said, you know what? And I think this is very interesting for me that he said this yesterday, that he would go and visit the late former president, Mzee Moi, at his home. And Moi would stand up, right? In African culture, when you stand, is what you're doing is that you're offering some kind of respect. He would stand up and say, Karibu, Your Excellency. And when he was speaking at the remembrance of Mzee Moi yesterday, I don't think it would be lost on us to say that what he was actually saying is, if a man who is so revered, that has brought all of us here today to remember him, if he could stand up and honor me and respect me, how much more those leaders who are, yes, essentially below me, why would you not accord this seat? Why would you not accord me the respect that should come along with this seat? I don't think that it is ill-timed that he's asking for this, that we're seeing things hurtling out of control already with some of the nonsense that we see taking place in some of these rallies or some of these meetings, some of the things, the spewing of vitriol that we see coming from the mouths of many leaders. Respect the presidency. Respect this individual, because this is the seat that you're essentially heading to or that you want to have. Respect it. Or even if you see this individual could help you in one way or another, respect it. And I think that what we have seen is a blatant disregard for the seat of the presidency. I think we've seen a lot of insults that shouldn't have come out. I think what we've seen is that we've given a platform, or leaders have given a platform, or those who've spewed these insults have given a platform for everybody else, basically, to say whatever they want to say about the president, about the presidency. And I think it's gotten a tad too much. So for him to call for this again, it's not the first time. For him to ask for it again, I think it's pinched somewhere. And for him to make this demand, come on, guys, it's become too much.
How do you divorce the presidency from the individual who is the president?
Can you really?
No, you can't.
No.
In my opinion, you can't in this sense. The person that you are will actually mirror the presidency that you have. Why do I say this? Because if you look at any president that we have had in this country, or any leader for that matter, how do we recognize them? How do we recognize the leadership? It's by the person. We say, in this person's era, we saw this. Now, there was a time in our history, again here we have to go down memory lane, when political leaders were revered. That is just the truth. It was a carryover from a traditional time when leaders were looked up to. And why was this? Because leaders were achievers. You didn't just become a leader because you woke up and somehow you had this vision that you should be a leader. There are things that you had done. There are things that people recognize are things that someone in leadership ought to do. It is for that reason that many leadership positions in our continent, in our space, it has been associated with the things that you have done to uplift the people who are around you, the people you lead. Basic. That's what it was. Now, with the time, remember, what we're discussing here is political discourse. When people campaign, some of the most unpalatable things are said. It did not start with the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta. It did not start the presidency of Mwai Kibaki or of Daniel Arap Moi, or even of Jomo Kenyatta. What we knew, there's a time it was toned down. Okay? But so long as there were people whose views on the leadership were contrary to those in leadership, believe me, or there was competition at the level of seeking political office, the things that we have allowed to be said, why do you think we set up commissions? Why do you think we set up departments of government to look into the way people say things, decorum that should be observed? Why did the subject of hate speech come? Because it existed. And we had seen the harm that these things do. And we decided, you know something, this one it goes beyond nipping it in the bud. We have to institutionalize correct behavior. Now, that's where we have been failing, institutionalizing it. Because on the one hand, we speak about it, and then not very long after it's been spoken about, something happens, there's a rally somewhere, and people let fly. And the things that are said are things that shouldn't even be X-rated. They should be triple X-rated. And you're wondering, what are these people talking about?
Sure, but it has happened in a manner in which it hasn't been recorded or reported before. Everybody seems to be able to say what they want, when they want, and in the manner in which they want to say it. Whether it is a face-to-face encounter, you might not come out and call this individual an idiot, but you're alluding to
people call each other things far worse than calling someone an idiot.
Right.
Far
so
worse.
now, if we're talking about the presidency, which in my opinion is a seat and is a position that ought to be respected. Now, the question, regardless of the individual that sits there. So I hear you saying, if there is no respect that is being accorded to the seat of the presidency, it has a lot to do with the individual that sits as president.
Yes, it does. And also,
so he's not. So, and there's also the adage that respect is earned.
It is earned.
So he's not pulling, as an individual, he's not pulling the respect that he should. And that is why people, whether it is the leaders under him, whether it is Kenyans then on Twitter, whether it is people who can pull up any press conference somewhere and say whatever that they want to say, it is because he has not commanded the respect, and not just commanded in terms of saying respect me, but done things that would earn the respect regardless.
No, yes and no. Because in this very same studio, you heard me say this. I am often confused. Confused because of this. On the one hand, there are those who clamor and say the president doesn't do anything, he's not forceful. So you want a forceful leader, okay? He's indecisive. Oh, you want a decisive leader. Then the president is decisive. The people who have been pouring vitriol on his name or in his position, he says, you know something, I really don't need these gainsayers on my side. Let's make a few changes. What do you hear instead?
Imperialist.
Imperial leader, dictator, God knows what. What did you expect? He is actually using the powers that are at his disposal. So instead of being thankful that you had a benign leader who accommodated your vitriol and your nonsense, you were here mouthing and calling him all sorts of negative things. He then takes a position which people say, hardliner. No, not hardliner. You're either for me or you're against me. I have an agenda. You're either supporting it or you're not. If you're not, then I don't need you here. I need people who support my agenda. It's the way these things work. You work with people who have the same train of thought, or who at least will follow the path that you have all agreed you're going to follow. Now, fast forward it. In the political space, the one thing that is a currency that we don't talk about loudly enough is treachery. Believe me, it underpins very many political things, political decisions, political processes. People agree on one thing, the next thing is done. Then a kitchen cabinet is blamed. I wouldn't blame a kitchen cabinet. Those are usually politicians who understand that they stand to gain from a certain position. And anything or anyone whose presence may interfere with the goals, that's an individual they will not want around them.
So he shouldn't have to ask for the respect then?
No.
He shouldn't have to say, respect me.
I think he should.
To remind folks, okay, so you really think he should. You think that folks don't know that they need to respect the seat?
People forget things and they behave as though they have forgotten. You cannot just talk about the president as though he's the guy you grew up with and looked after cows with. No. He is not your next door buddy. Even if he is your buddy, that's where you respect the office. Even if it's someone you hang out with, you have to understand that the job that he requires and the person, and because he's the person who holds that position, you have to treat him in a certain way. You may not think so, you may not like it, but that is how the rule is. You must.
So who needs to remind you of that? It's he himself who says, you know what? Respect me. You need to approach this thing with humility. You need to respect me. And on the other hand, we are saying, okay, well, there's certain things that he should have done to gain the respect of people.
I think
but
he
I
has.
think the seat on its, I'm saying the seat on its own, regardless of what they have done, not done, there's a certain element of respect that it should draw.
Do.
It should draw. And you say, okay, hold on. If this individual, there's certain things he or she has not done, you still call him Mr. President.
Do. Presidents are human beings.
Absolutely.
Political leaders are human beings. And if we go by that simple truth, they will have their failings. Now, why do you have kitchen cabinets? Why do you have deep state and even deeper states? Why do you have inner circle and even inner circle times 3? The reason is because the presidency requires the presence of a certain force around it. Now, what is their job? Apart from what is stipulated, they are supposed to ensure the presidency works. They're supposed to ensure that the president works. That's their job. If you have a leader and you know they have a weakness, it is, if you're in those circles, your job to make sure that weakness does not interfere with the administration of the task that this person has. That's your job.
As opposed to attacking it.
Yes, that is your job. That's how it works. You want to understand it? Look at a domestic setup. There may be domestic issues in any home, but a united front will be presented. When someone has a weakness, that weakness is covered for. Now, there are those who are, it should be brought out in the open. To achieve what exactly? How does it help? I'm saying something that people will resonate with. When you are in that domestic setup, you can say all the things you like because you are in that domestic setup. You will say it and you'll call out things. But there are things you don't call out in public. I'm not saying something that is secretive and something that I'm inventing. It's the way it is done. I will have a friend whose weakness I know. In public, I will defend him. In private, I will kick his bum. Because I know very well that this is something that they shouldn't do. It's a simple rule. It's a simple rule. It is not complicated.
Okay. Are we crossing over now civil liberties when we see the kind of insults that come at the president? Because you know what? It's been called as leaders who, the president himself says he got off some parts of social media because he couldn't take it anymore. And it's not just leaders who were insulting him. Everybody across board had something to say about how he was performing or not, about how he took his responsibilities as the president. He left Twitter. For example, that's just one example. He left it because he just couldn't take it anymore. Anybody saying whatever they wanted to say about it. And I'm saying that with the allowance of certain things, this is what you get. There's some countries where there's some countries you will not talk about the president like that. You will find yourself locked up.
My dear, let us look at what we're talking about here. The president is clearly an easygoing guy. Clearly. Guy with serious bonhomie. Easygoing, a guy who is easy to get along with. Now, if I listen to the narratives I've been hearing that oppose the sort of his style of leadership, is that they want someone who exudes strength. Go to Belarus, just so that we understand it. All right? Just go to Russia, okay? These people have leaders who are strong men. And look at what's happening in those countries. All right? The Chinese Communist Party is full of strong men and women. Look at what they do to certain parts of their population who they feel need re-education and what that re-education means. What am I saying? This isn't something new. Once upon a time, for those who subscribe to infinity as it's presented in the holy book of the Christians called the Bible, the people who take center stage in the discussion in the Bible are called Jews. They were not ruled by kings. They were ruled by a group of people called judges. This guy people like talking about called Samson, he was one of the judges. Yeah. But they said, no. Look, we don't really want this. We also want a king. And they were talking to God through God's prophets. And they were told, folks, this thing of a king, I know you see your neighbors with kings. This Kings will enslave your sons. They'll give you a hard time. You won't like it. This committee that we have here is diverse and it is good. And it isn't one person. They insisted. They got a king. And they got kings. And the very things that were spoken of, when you have other people, why do you think modern democracy has a check and balance? It's for the same reason. Understanding human nature, that when you center power on one individual, no matter how good he was, it will corrupt him. It will influence that person adversely. So just so that they stay sober and they stay true to the cause, you have parliament, you have this, you have the other, you have independent judiciary. That's why you have these things. The evolution of democracy has understood human nature, and because of that understanding, they have decided you need a check and balance, because you cannot determine the welfare of a people. You can't base it on the goodwill of one individual. No. No matter how well-meaning that person is, that person will be influenced by the power of that position. And that's why people abandon kings.
We're going to take a break now and look at what's happening in the skies. Take a break also on our KTN home. For now, we'll be back in a bit and continue this conversation. Should people be able to say what it is they want to say about the president and the presidency? We'll be back. The conversation continues.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, the skies are clearing up. Beautiful sunrise today, 16 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 17. We'll see 11 degrees and sunny conditions in Nyeri, highs of 26, highs of 29 in Nakuru today, 13 degrees at the moment and mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 27 in Eldoret, 11 and sunny right now. Sunny conditions also in Kisumu at 19, highs of 32 and lows of 21. 19 degrees and mostly sunny in Kakamega, highs of 31. 33 the high in Mombasa, partly sunny conditions at 25. It's mostly cloudy at 26 in Malindi, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Highs of 28 in Kampala, Uganda, where it's mostly sunny at 22. 32 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's mostly sunny at 26 at the moment. 17 degrees and cloudy conditions, going to highs of 22 today and lows of 15. 33 degrees will be the high in Lagos today. It's raining now at 27 and cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 24. Highs of 33 and lows of 24.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Traffic.
All right. It's not moving too badly on Thika Road right now. Joining with Kiambu Road, however, it's an absolute mess, and we see that there's quite some traffic on Kiambu Road. Bumper to bumper situations is what we're experiencing now. As you try to join, it's going to be very slow, but towards Nairobi, just before the CID, there was an accident that happened this morning, and that is affecting traffic till now. All right, let's look at Thika Road between Roy Sambu and Githurai. Another accident outbound, same spot as the accident that took place yesterday. Perhaps we're looking at a black spot on Thika Road. We need to be very careful about this one. It's moving very slowly all the way through into the CBD. Out from Westlands, also slow. Outbound, going towards Limuru, that's slow as well. Let's look at Ngong Road. Coming out from Ngong Town, very slow traffic as you're then trying to make your way towards the city mortuary roundabout, and then on down towards Valley Road or down towards Ngong Road further up. Okay. Coming out of Mbagathi, also as you come down from Langata Road, that works right now. It's not too bad, not at a bumper to bumper, except for some parts, and you should be able to get through without any issue. Okay, Westlands, Uhuru Highway, my goodness, it's not moving. It's Friday and people are still on the roads, even at this time. Let's look at what it looks like in about half an hour, and hopefully it'll open up a bit. Talk to us on Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text 40127. It's Friday. Let's keep it moving.
Tengesa kidole, tengesa kidole, agano kidole, agano kidole, agano.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is the only way to start your day. Where you're tuned in from today, we are tuned in on 94.4 in Nairobi. Live streams are up in the Situation Room on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Spice FM KE on all the handles. We're also on KTN Home this morning, and in the Situation Room today, Nduoko and CT Muga, as we continue to have this conversation this morning. And manners is what is being asked about here. And so the question we're asking this morning, or looking at this issue, whereby the president, again, almost sounded like an appeal yesterday when he said, please respect this seat. Respect me as an individual. Let's not have the intolerance that we've seen playing out at this time that we currently see it. It's playing out in a way that is uncomfortable. It's playing out in a way that is dangerous. And this thing needs to be nipped in the bud. Well, it looks like it has already flowered at this point. It's not a bud anymore. It looks like it has flowered quite some, and it seems to have taken root. Is respect earned by the presidency? Or do you lead by example in terms of what you want to happen? And that's interesting because Julia says two adages come to mind. Respect is earned and you lead by example. So which one is it here that we are looking at? Should people's liberties, when it comes to things like freedom of speech and freedom of expression, etc., should they come into play here? Should you be able to call out the highest seat in the land, the executive, and say, I really don't like what it is that you're doing, and then add on to it some flowery expressions in terms of insults? Should you be able to do that by virtue of the fact that you can express your heart and mind when you feel that things are going in the wrong way? And it's not just leaders, it is individuals. We've seen it. It's all over social media. Anybody can say whatever they want to say, and nobody's really going to come at you, apart from an appeal from the president to say, please respect me, whether it's just leaders or whomever it is. Respect me. This is a seat that demands respect. So is it so difficult to do? Can you call somebody out? Can you point out the wrong that is happening while still respecting the seat? Is it possible to be done?
It is very possible. It is. You see, the responsibility that goes with leadership seems to have been lost somewhere along the way. So that leaders seem to think that because they are leaders, they even forget that they were elected. They think now there's this blank slate that they have been given to do whatever they wish. And the responsibility that comes with that job also means that you have to be responsible about the things you say, the utterances that come out of your mouth. If at a domestic level, we are careful about the things we say in front of our children. It's not that you don't want to say it, but you don't. We know, we are very clear about decorum. This you can do here, this you can do here. Why is it that then when you get into the political sphere, you seem to feel that that order of things no longer applies? Why? Why? At what point did it just become the wild, wild west where you can say and do whatever you like? Now, to understand that you can't, you really need to focus on what is happening right now to the governor, the immediate former governor of Nairobi. Views will differ on this particular subject. Oh, state power is being used to do this. And it goes on, yada, yada, it goes on and on and on. The truth of the matter is this. Did he not, or did he utter the things that he uttered? He did. It's in the public domain. Did he not confess to being party to certain criminal activities? He did. Look, it can't be that when things that are happening to someone who is an immediate former governor, suddenly it has a political twist. What is happening to him happened to ordinary citizens every other day. Someone is arrested, there's an issue, you are taken to remand, it's forgotten that you put in remand. It's supposed to be a holding place. You are there for years. Why? Somehow somebody forgot that you were there. Other cases came up, and so you're still there sitting languishing. Because maybe you didn't have the money to pay the bond that was required. Something happened. There are things that happen to the common man. Where did the leadership forget that their job, if you're a politician, is to actually ensure that you are responsible and you utter things that indicate your responsibility towards the electorate, people who put you in office. When did they forget this? You look at the utterances, they're all self-serving. The only time it appears like the citizen is being considered is when you are brought into the conversation and told, this is because of you. This will benefit you. That's when you are brought into the conversation. But otherwise, it's this little merry-go-round political musical chair that they keep playing among themselves.
Does it give folks then the right to say whatever it is that they would want about the president or the presidency?
That is abusing the position that you have.
Does it give folks the right to then speak in the manner in which they want?
No.
No.
There is a way in which you can speak. There's a way in which you can call someone out. You don't have to be insulting. You don't. But we seem to think that seems to be the order of the day, that you can actually just insult the president. You actually can't. And if you do, there'll be consequences.
Are there really, though? We've seen it, CT, that people have been able to say whatever it is that they want to say, regardless.
My friend,
should you be able? Oh, okay. Should you be able then, if you see something wrong with the presidency at this point, should you be able to say whatever it is that you want?
Let me put it differently, shall I? Okay. You insult the president as much as you like. When the sky falls on your head, you will have brought it to yourself. Because it will. You may think you're getting away with it, but only for a season. You will not get away with it indefinitely.
Well, we definitely want to hear from you this morning on 0719 012 600. At 0719 012 600. Lend us your ears and your voice as well. What is it that would make anyone speak in the manner in which they do about the presidency, which is what we've seen now about the president himself, which is what we are seeing now playing out? It's not the first time that he would have warned against it. It's probably not going to be the last time. But by the fact that he has to come out repeatedly and ask for this respect, then it's clear that there's a problem. Is not and say, please respect me, please be tolerant, just please allow things to operate in a peaceful manner without these insults that we're seeing. It's almost as if he's saying, don't force my hand. Don't force my hand. Don't force my hand. Please, there's a way in which we can operate without having this kind of drama. We'll take your calls on 0719 012 600. You can respect the president and call him out. We'll hear from you. Karaoke, good morning. Hello. Let's hear from Karaoke this morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Interesting discussion. I have never called on air before.
Karibu
sana. I got impelled to call so that I can give my thoughts on the interesting topic of leadership.
Yeah.
In my observed opinion, I'm in management myself, and in my observed opinion, I think the tragedy that is bedeviling Kenya, in as far as leadership is concerned, is twofold. In management, as in war, when one is a general, or when you're leading an organization, or when you're leading an entity like a nation, you do not delegate responsibility. What you delegate are duties. So one of the things I've noticed about leadership in this country is that there's a lot of delegation of responsibility. You don't get to hear a leader delegating those responsibilities, but they are manifest. You can see that there is no, the government is not coordinated. Different ministries have, or rather a ministry could have an objective, but you can see that another ministry is going contrary to that objective. So that leads you to conclude that there's a lack of responsibility, or there's convoluted responsibilities that are clashing against each other. So that is one. Secondly, there's something that is very common in Kenya's now political leadership. And I'm talking about political leadership here, in everything I'm saying. And it is the following. We know that, and we have seen this, that in political rallies, politicians pose a question. Politicians who have been elected to the masses. Don't you want us to do this? We want to do this? Or what do you guys want? Or politicians say, I'm going to consult my people. In my understanding, when you're a leader, your job is to dream, have a vision of what is great for your people. And you market what you think is great for your people, and you lead them. In the wilderness, when Moses was leading the Israelites, and they were grumbling, saying there's no water, we want to go back, he remained firm. He said, no, let's stay the course. We're going to Canaan. Canaan looks nice, so stay the course. Had he abdicated that responsibility, you can imagine what would have happened to the Israelis. When in Kibaki's first presidency, the late John Njoroge Mishuki, who was Minister for Transport, told Kenyans, I will not allow you to be standing in matatus. I must have touts wearing uniforms.
Right.
And I remember the opposition at the time was kind of inciting the masses to strike, inciting matatu owners not to ply the routes in defiance of Mishuki's vision.
Orders, yes.
Now, yes, Mishuki did not ask the masses, what do you guys want? But he had a vision of what was best for the people. And everybody later agreed. I remember in the last, when matatus went on strike, on the eve of matatus going on strike, Mishuki said tomorrow, I think he was in a TV in-studio interview, and he said, tomorrow I'm going to work with Nairobians in solidarity. And then I think the matatu operators saw that the resolve by Mishuki was strong, and then they balked at the idea of going on strike, so they did not go on strike. The point is that we should stop, politicians should stop saying, I'll consult my people. The reason why you cannot, if you have a constituency of 10,000 people, and that's a small number, you can't consult everyone. Everybody will have a different opinion. When you get elected, the unspoken expectation by the people who have elected you is this. Go to that office, do things that are for our benefit, are good for us. But this thing of I'll consult my people, it's quite tragic.
So if they don't do this, Karaoke, from what you're saying and from what we are talking about this morning, if you have an agreed responsibility when it comes to leadership and you don't fulfill that, regardless of the circumstances, should people be able to call you out in the manner in which we have seen it being played out in this country, regardless of what it is that they say?
I think people are reasonable, unless somebody is cynical. If such a thing happened to my leader, I will interrogate what has the leader tried. Maybe he has genuinely been frustrated by other circumstances. It can be manifest. You can see that he's really trying. So I will be reasonable. I will see, anyway, you have been doing some effort. You have tried your best. But also that leader, if he said, I will do X, and he's getting frustrated or he's not being able to realize that X, and it's in the reasonable opinion of the people that he represents, he's tried his best. That leader should then come back to the people and say, okay, you should have initiative. Okay, I am stuck here. The way I'm seeing that I can untangle myself from my current circumstances is I'll try this option B. And that is, in my opinion, that is good leadership. Even in corporates, in 2020 last year, COVID happened. So organizations were looking up to the leadership for option B. Okay, what else? But you can't say, now we are doomed. We didn't see COVID coming. It's an act of God. You have to do something, and people depend on you for salaries, for employment, and you have to show leadership.
Karaoke, would I be wrong if I took the liberty of assuming that you work in the corporate world?
I do.
Okay, now you gave two wonderful examples. One of the people of Israel, and then you gave yet another example which I like. But there's something that I feel I should mention. Remember, the people of Israel had been complaining about the bitter enslavement and the treatment that they had had for the longest time. So the problem was known. It isn't as though Moses did not need to be told about the problem. He knew it. He was just a survivor of the problems that were there, but he knew it. So this one didn't require consultation. People wanted to be moved out of there. So he was doing something that the consensus was already there. Now, when you talk
moving out of Israel,
sorry,
the consensus being we have
to get out of
they were tired of the way they were living in Egypt. I'm sure there were people among them who were not completely unhappy. They had found a way of surviving within that setup, but the majority were unhappy. Now, it is true, even when you lead, you really wouldn't go very far if you hadn't taken into consideration what people actually want.
Yeah.
Yes.
So even in the corporate world, that is what you do. You understand this is the direction you want to go. But you see, again, the fundamental difference is that in the corporate world, there's a corporate ideology. There's the corporate ethos. There's a corporate direction. If it's a company, this is what we want to do. So when you come in, you fit into it. Now, the political sphere is different in that you are actually being elected. People actually have a say in your being in leadership. In the corporate world, people don't have to have a say. It is your abilities and the manner in which you're able to work within that corporate environment that agrees. It's never taken to a plebiscite. The plebiscite will have to do with, if you don't like it, then you simply move and go elsewhere. But I like your example. And you are right in that leaders should lead. And I agree with you 100%. The only problem is that oftentimes, if you look at our country, wouldn't you say that the leaders are also leading in the direction that they think would not suit their people? This is where the discussion comes in. But what suits them?
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that when people elect, they should have a say. But why was I elected? If I got elected, why was I elected? The presumption is that I was elected because I evangelized a certain ideology.
Yes.
I marketed. Basically, leaders are marketers. Even in the corporate world, the example you gave. Here is the vision. This is how we're going to do this, and this is where we're going to reach our corporate canon. And for you to be part of this bandwagon, this is what we're going to do. Either we'll increase bonuses or whatever it is, initiatives. So you basically put all your ducks in a row. In a corporate world, the human resource is the most important resource. So you must get buy-in for any vision. You must get buy-in from the people, from the human resources organization, for you as a corporate leader to succeed. When I stand for a seat, elective seat, I will evangelize my vision. I'll say I will do this, I will do that, I will do the other. And people will grant me an endorsement by way of a vote. Yes, we agree with you. We are voting for you. Let's assume I'll go ahead and win. But now, if I start embarking on the same vision that I marketed to the people who elected me, and you give leeway to everybody to have a say, there will be people who will have an opinion that undermines the vision that you evangelize. So you can't listen to everyone, really.
You can't listen to everybody.
The problem with Kenya is that, I will give an example, real example. A minister, a CS, will issue a policy statement, and then there will be all manner of noise. It's well-intentioned, and then they'll backtrack. Or the president will pop out of the sunroof somewhere to greet Wananchi, and the local leader will say, oh, your CS said 1, 2, 3, we didn't like. And then they say, okay, we'll stop that. And that's another tragedy.
It is another tragedy. Okay, well, we're definitely hearing you this morning, Karaoke. Thank you very much for your sentiments and expressions today. We're going to hear calls from other people. Asante Sana.
Absolute pleasure for having me. Yeah.
But thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, listening and hearing from other comments that are coming in. Paulo Dwar says, the president maybe is someone close to you or you associate, but the institution of the presidency deserves to be respected. Daniel says, according to sociologists, to command respect, be it at the presidency or otherwise, one needs to speak less and do more. The wisdom of speaking less disallows close friends reading your mind. President Uhuru has dismally performed in this area. Well, all right then. Rolex says, will you go and abuse your father at his gate and don't expect reputation? Respect and responsibility are married. You can't have one without the other. The presidency must be respected. And so now that's what's coming out, is regardless of what it is, regardless, this is a seat that demands respect. You can't have people going about saying whatever they want. I remind you of times having gone by. Other presidents, you wouldn't open your mouth and say just what you want. The machinery at their that they have, in their hands would come at you. Even in this country, even in other countries on the continent, you don't just open your mouth and say whatever it is that you want to say. You don't insult that seat.
Even President Kibaki, the things that were said about him, he didn't speak much. Only spoke when I think he thought it was absolutely necessary. It was some of the things which are being said were said of him as well. Oh, this guy doesn't seem to be decisive. There are few people I have met who are as decisive or I've seen who are as decisive as the former president. But the point is, we come from a background where we are accustomed to the in-your-face type of leaders who are always saying things, who are always issuing directives, and who have a huge, forceful presence in your everyday life.
Well, okay. Well, let's hear from Tidjin. Tidjin, good morning.
Good morning. Huh?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine too. And I want to give my contribution a bit to the motion.
Yes, what do you think?
You see, one funny thing that all these people who show disrespect to each other are leaders. They forget that it's only the president who is a leader. Even them, they're leaders. And when you see another leader abuse another leader, that's now lack of respect in the leadership level, because these people are leading citizens. Be it at the capacity of a deputy president, a governor, an MP, you are all leaders. And therefore, as leaders, you are supposed to represent your people in a respectful manner. That includes how do you bear out your differences. You see, people might differ in leadership. Of course, you might not walk the same journey together. But when there's a problem in leadership, or with one of your fellow leaders, there's a way you would like to approach that leader. For example, I'm a citizen. I cannot go and abuse my MP in the name of giving out my opinion. How comes my MP feel that he should abuse the president in giving out his opinion? How come?
Very true. It's a very, very valid point.
So you see, we are all elected as leaders. One thing that these people forget, the president or the deputy president forget that he's a deputy president. He thinks that he's a citizen, now giving opinion of citizens to the president. He's also a leader. And as a leader, there's a way he is expected to air out his grievances. You see, there's what you call diplomacy. As much as people might have different styles of leadership, and we must agree, Uhuru cannot lead as Kibaki. Kibaki could have not lead this country as Moi. Every leader has a different style of leadership, and every leader has different character and attributes in his leadership. But there are best principles of leadership that are practiced worldwide. Those principles include respect, and that respect is not that you can have an excuse of abusing each other. For example, look how Trump was leading U.S.
Right.
He will come any day and talk anything he feels anywhere, you see? But when it's reached to that level, even you as a leader, if you don't respect any other leader you serve together with, there's no way you expect citizens to serve you. And one day, for example, today you are abusing the president, tomorrow you'll be the president.
There you go.
Will you feel happy? Will you really feel happy when you're abused? Because today you are not the president, but tomorrow you'll be the president. Do you think that you are forming good foundation on how people should respond to issues in this country?
Valid point, Tidjin. Valid point this morning. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, so there it is. What are we saying at this point? You shouldn't be, look, regardless of where you look at it, the world over, people who are in the highest positions of leadership, whether it be liberal societies, whether it be, on the other side of the divide, there is a respect that is demanded of that seat without the individual. Now, add the individual to it. It really doesn't matter. There are ways in which you can tell somebody to behave in a certain manner. There are things that you can do to remind somebody of their duty, even if it is that they're failing. But I think the blatant disrespect that we have seen actually needs to come to a halt. Should he have to demand for that respect? I don't think so. It's something that should be given. It is something that should be given.
You know, when a leader stands up in a podium and utters the things as leaders actually utter, there are various levels of disrespect that we see. But the one which, in my opinion, is most important is we, the citizenry, are being disrespected. Why do you feel you need to air such dirty linen in our presence? And then we join in and disrespect ourselves even further when we join in and we seem to be happy with this display of disrespect. Now, I really would not want to be led by a perfect leader. No. I want someone who has flaws, because somebody who has flaws will understand my flaws, and they are then operating from a platform where they can understand other people's weaknesses. It is good to have leaders who have flaws, but leaders who do not understand the responsibility of their positions, leaders who do not, it's clear they don't respect themselves, who can't keep it to themselves, but they want to spread that disrespect to us as well. You are insulting a leader in public.
And you hope to be in a higher position yourself sometime in the near future.
And we are supposed to join you in that high level of... Look, there are things we all know we don't do. We all know. Again, I bring it to a domestic setup. Since when do people go around shouting at their parents? Since when? No matter how offended they are.
Well, at least on this continent.
No, I'm not talking about places where they lost a sense of decorum
a long time ago.
Okay, in the name of freedom. No, not that. We as Africans, there is a decorum. It's not that you can't tell your parent what you think. You can. But you choose a forum and you say, look. And it is then understood, because you have to decide. Do you want the effect or do you want the results? Do you want someone to understand what you're saying, or do you want to feel that you have said what you needed to say? Because you will feel and you will not have any results at the end of it.
Of the day.
Yes. So now you insult the president, and then what? Okay, we've heard. You have shown people that you have more items on your body than other people.
And you can speak louder than anybody else.
Out. Yes. So, okay, you have. And then tomorrow we'll forget tomorrow. By the end of that particular political session, we'll have forgotten.
But then we will not have forgotten, because if you come and put your name in a position whereby
we will then
remember
we will recall
the manner in which you spoke.
Yes, we will.
And the question then arises: if you could speak in this manner to somebody who sat in that position, are you then worthy of that seat? And that's the question that must be asked. We're going to keep taking your calls on 0719 012 600. Should you be allowed to say whatever you want in the name of calling out that person who sits in the highest seat? We're going to take a break right now on KTN Home. The conversation continues on Spice FM.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me, what channel is Spice FM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
What
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice
It is
up
indeed
your
the only way
life.
to start your day. The conversation continues right here on the Situation Room. In the room this morning, Nduoko and CT Mugan. We're asking ourselves a question today. Really trying to open up this conversation and say the insults that have been hurled at the president over the last long period of time. In some cases, absolutely unnecessary. But because certain civil liberties have been granted to people, does it then mean that you can speak in the manner in which you would like to? We're going to take a few more of your calls on 0719 012 600. And just looking at social media and what you've been able to tell us, this morning, we should learn to respect institutions, and those running institutions should respect those institutions as well. And the law, the rest will follow. The president himself has failed in many occasions to respect institutions and those running them. Hence, people will criticize him openly, and that doesn't mean disrespect. That's very interesting, Kip Korir. Does that mean that because you call somebody out and their lack of respect of institutions, that you in turn are disrespecting them? I think in some cases the words that are used are unpalatable and things that you would not even say to your own father. Yes, we know that the president is not your parent. However, it's the lines of respect that must be drawn around this seat, and that's what we are saying. I mean, that regardless of, there's certain lines of respect that should be drawn.
Respect to newborn babies. There's a way in which you treat other human beings, and that indicates, it clearly points to the way you think, but it also resonates and it manifests itself as respect. You know, sometimes I think there's an unfair judgment in my mind on this particular government. Why do I say it's an unfair judgment? It's unfair in this sense. Every presidency has its challenges, yes. But this particular presidency has had more challenges than any other presidency in the history of this country. Why do I say this? They are the only presidency that has had to deal with the manifestations of devolution. The other presidencies didn't. They are the only presidency that has had, and with that came what people call diluting the powers of the president, but no, democratizing it, making it more democratic. Our mindset didn't change with it. Our mindset remained where it was before. So we say on the one hand we want this sort of presidency, but on the other we also want...
No, really want it.
They don't really want it, and then we want it, but we don't really want it. Now, you have a presidency the presidency respects certain aspects of the constitution. The others, they clearly don't. Like, listen to the dictates of our courts of justice. But others, when there is tolerance in the way they accommodate criticism. President Kibaki began this well. President Moi had his little stint at it, accommodating it. Towards the end of his tenure, President Kibaki opened up this political space even more. This democratic space was speaking even more. Now, there are many things that the presidency of Uhuru has done. It has opened it even further. We are abusing it. We are not treating that space responsibly. When I say we, when you cheer the insults, oh man, you're participating in desecrating that freedom that you participated in creating and forming, and you're taking the whole institution back instead of forward.
So then it tells something about then the people and where the mindset is. If you can join in this song and dance and continue to insult, if you take what one leader or one individual has done to the nth, you also are joining in this. So you can't be too far away. You can't be too far away, because if what you're saying, CT, is that someone has come out quite clearly and insulted this seat, and then you take what they have said and then you cheered on, and then you've also added to it, you are not too far either from blame.
What's too far? You are participating in that process. And you see, I took the view that you talk about disrespect, you are disrespecting yourself, and you're joining that person who has also disrespected you, because why are you telling us such things in public? It is understood there are things that are discussed in private, there are things that are discussed in public. Now you have brought... If you have disagreements with your fellow politicians, we don't really want to know certain details, but you've decided that's what you're going to do. And then you present it in a way that is considered insulting. Why do you want to treat us with these things? Why do you think that that's the menu of conversation that we want to imbibe every time you open your mouth? And we cheer them on. And then we complain when there's a reaction and there's an enforcement that guarantees that those things don't happen. There's a complaint. So what do we really want?
What comes out here is that the responsibility that everybody bears. When we talk about, yes, you should respect the presidency, I think
you should respect yourself.
Right, start, and then you'll find
respect yourself.
If you really do, then it wouldn't be too difficult for that respect then to be shown then across the board.
Yes, forget the leaders. You respect yourself. Irrespective of your station in life, whatever your economic circumstance, respect yourself. When you allow yourself to be part of the goon squad that throws stones, you're disrespecting yourself. What are you doing? Why are you allowing yourself to be an item instead of being a human being? Why? You're disrespecting yourself. And then you talk about respect. And then you complain. What are you complaining about? A situation that you've helped create. You've participated willingly. And then you want to do the Kenyan thing of looking for someone to blame. No, sorry, this one, you can't shift it. The leaders, if the leaders don't respect themselves, let that be their problem, not yours.
Well, comments coming in, and also it looks like, the fact that the president then has to ask for respect means that things probably have gone quite south in terms of direction. That he has to come out over and over and over again and say, please respect me. We didn't hear it as much in other presidencies. We didn't see other presidents demanding for this respect because things seem to have flown out the window. Now more than ever, we've seen.
Do we even know how difficult it is to be a president? We don't know.
No, we don't understand the trappings of all of this at all.
But remember I said, these guys are human beings. You think he doesn't get upset when people insult him? You see, we don't know what he does to ensure that the presidency works or the country does. We don't know.
In whichever way it works.
We only have an idea, and we talk about the ideas we have, and sometimes we've missed it completely. We don't know what he has to grapple with. Haven't you ever asked yourself, when you look at your parents and you look at the numbers, because our parents had many children, and you wonder, how did they manage to take all of us to school?
Yeah,
because then you have an idea of what they earned. You wonder, how did they do this?
And you're grappling with that reality.
Yes, you're grappling with that reality.
The conversation continues, CT.
It does.
It's 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Yep, and there's quite some of it on Thika Road today. It's feeding off of what was going on Kiambu Road and not looking pretty at all. Quite the jam-packed situation. And in this case, it's in and outbound. There was an accident further up the road, right around Githurai, and that also caused some problems. So traffic is moving much slower than you would like. Jogger Road this morning also trying to get into the CBD. You're going to get through at the roundabout at the City Stadium, and then out towards Landis Road. Not too bad today getting into the city, and Outer Ring also behaving quite well today. The eastern and southern bypasses, let's see what that looks like, but it looks like it can flow smoothly in and out Mombasa Road, connecting with Ngong Road and then into the city. That looks fine. Ngong Road traffic is bumper to bumper. Limuru Road at Village Market out towards the CBD is absolute chaos this morning, bumper to bumper. It's not moving, overlapping, throwing everything else that you want to there. That's what it is on Limuru Road this morning. So it is a Friday. Things are getting crazy already. Let's see what it looks like in about half an hour or so. Let us know if you might be stuck somewhere. At the very least, we'll keep you company. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
There are so many people peddling what is false, and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafande hii umbo yako iko na
ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is the only way to start your day, and we are tuned in live on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, Malindi at 97.7, Eldoret 96.6, 90.9 in Nyeri, Kisumu 102.5, and Nakuru on 96.0. This is the Situation Room. We're also tuned in on KTN Home this morning, and our live streams are up, so we're also following Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. The conversation continues this morning. Nduoko and Siti Muga, and we're going to kick off the hour with today's proverb. Siti?
He who fears the sun will not become chief.
he who fears the sun will not become chief. Okay. And as this hour continues, we're talking about somebody who's no longer chief. The immediate former governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, seems to have found himself in a difficult situation, CT.
It isn't difficult.
No?
No. Difficult from whose perspective? Difficult maybe from him, but then difficult because he didn't understand the consequences of his actions and his words. Difficult. What is difficult here?
Look, the fellow arrested for one charge, not being able to be granted bail and has to stay there for a couple more days. And then in the process of that, then another charge is levied against him, and there he is not granted bail. And both judges, or rather both magistrates of both courts, as of yesterday, then decided that we needed more time to be able to look at all the factors in this case and see. And so another 5 days have been granted him in terms of what you would often call a scholarship, by the state, and say that he would stay in a little longer. But it seemed that all of these things happened in rapid succession, especially after he was, hurled out of the office of governor. And several people have had many things to say. That it would seem as if state machinery is being used to put him in a position to teach him a lesson after he has been removed from office. Had he been in office, he would not be facing this kind of behavior. Had he played or danced to the tune, then in this case he would not be suffering what he is suffering now. He's going to spend 5 more days in the cells. There's several charges that have been being brought against him. One of the more serious ones right now is that of local or domestic terrorism, when it comes to then supporting or sponsoring people to come against the seat of power. It was said that he then joined forces with Deputy President William Ruto as a direct attack to the president, especially when it came to moving forward with the services in the Nairobi metropolitan area. He did not want this to take place. He didn't play ball, basically. And so now state machinery is being used to bring him down. This is the narrative that is being spun amongst many people. Now, as we get into this conversation, here is what we hear from some of the opinion makers, shapers, some of the analysts on social media. Drama in all this is outright abuse of state power. It is not just meant to punish Mike Sonko. It is intended to create fear on Kenyans by reminding them that everyone is just a subject and a pawn. So, there's a lesson that's being taught to him, according to this. That Sonko is being taught a lesson that you can't just behave in any way in which you wish. That we will actually show you a lesson. But beyond that, not just him, but to Kenyans at large, to say, look, you can't act any way you want. We will find a way to put you down. So now it would appear that state power is being used to teach this man a lesson because he did not play ball. And the state should not be able to use that on Kenyans before they are found guilty. In this case, he's not been found guilty or whatever. The charges are being brought against him.
Listen to what you've said. When you talk about the police force going about the business that they are entrusted with, they are an arm of government whose duty is to do precisely that. So when you are told that you ought to be in your house by 10 and you are found at 11:30 and you are arrested, is the state using its power or have you just been arrested? Because the phraseology determines the outcome of this understanding. When you say state has used its power, as people have been claiming, these aren't your words, these are words that people have used, then it's like what is being intimated is that there is a negative use, there's an adverse use of power. Power is being used in a way it shouldn't be used. So what are we saying? That when someone has been a high seat of power, they should not be arrested. When you're a citizen of this country and there are laws the laws for everybody or are the laws just for those who, as they say, wanyonge, those who don't have the ability to defend themselves? Now, when the person has been a politician, Is it possible that the things that they're being arrested for are things that other people would be arrested for? Or is it that now it takes a political twist and we are then arguing that it is because he has changed positions, it is because he has done this?
And has been outright verbally in his change of position. Before that, he was clearly on the other side. Before his impeachment, before then he was basically hurled out of government, he was on the other side. Now, having come out after having come out of the governorship, then is when we saw all of these things coming out real quick. Charges being brought against him, arrests happening, and then now one after the other, arrest, no bail, arrest. It would seem as if he was being pressed down because this all happened after he made the statements that he did, that he was supporting
He
the deputy
escalated the
president.
statements he used to make before. Is there a time when this particular individual has not been known to say some really inflammatory things?
But he was a buddy of the president. He was a buddy.
Look, I haven't even gotten there yet.
Okay.
I'm just talking about utterances. I'm not talking about affiliations. Utterances and what they should mean. Are we seeing an example of what should happen to people who take a certain position, or are we politicizing it and saying, because he seems to have changed sides? And which side is he on now? And which side has he always been on, really? Look, you're talking about a man who records private speeches. You're talking about a man who will talk about things that they have discussed with other people in private. This is a man who will make public things that everyone who was involved knows that certain things should be kept private. I'm not casting a moral judgment. I'm simply talking about the facts of the situation. Whose side is this person on?
Well, I think let's just ask the question right off the bat this morning. Is Sonko being punished for what he has actually done or what he has said against the president?
Or did he do the things that the government is saying he is doing?
Did he do those things? These charges that are being brought against him? Well, some of these things we won't know until they're tried out in a court, right? After the charges are being brought against him. But from the optics, what we see right now, and that's a question that we're pushing out immediately off the bat on 0719 012 600 this morning. Is he actually being punished for things that he may have done, or is he being punished because of his verbal utterances, which would seem to be against the president?
It wasn't just utterances. There's a whole slew of things that are associated with him that have been contrary to what perhaps those who argue were the dictates of his office. Now, the question I'm asking, and I'm adding a third if to it, is it perhaps a carryover from a previous time when you were seen to be in opposition to the government? You were guaranteed to either face a jail term or detention. Guaranteed. And why? Because our laws at that particular time allowed the president to detain you without trial. The laws allowed it. Those laws have since been repealed. Are we saying so? Remember, they are the facts. And I am simply pointing to possible facts. And then there is the truth. Truth is, the man is in jail. Truth is, he has been accused. Fact is, the matters have to be proved in court.
The matters actually do have to be proved in court.
Yes.
But we can't run away from the optics of things and how they look right now in terms of that, you know what, you go against anything that has is the status quo, and it would seem as if they're going to find a way to press you down. That is what is being looked at by people. 0719 012 600. We're going to take your calls this morning. The question we're asking is the former governor of Nairobi being punished for what he's actually done, or is he being punished because he's not going the way of the president? We're going to hear from Christian this morning. Christian, good morning. Hello? Hello, Christian? Hello? All right, as we wait for that, we're going to hear from Joshua. Hello, Joshua, good morning. Joshua in Eldoret, good morning.
Morning.
Hello?
Hello, I can get you. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's the question we're asking this morning. Is Mike Mbuvi Sonko being punished for what he's actually done, or is he on the wrong side of the state?
I think both suggestions are very correct. Because he is in a court of law, we would assume there is some evidence pointing that he has done what he is being accused of. And secondly, It is about our system of governance. We are grappling with this thing called democracy, and we have not been able to get it online.
Yeah.
First of all, there is something called kakistocracy. This is where the government is headed by the least suitable people.
Okay.
And that is why some times ago I don't want to talk about it so much. The two major cities in the Republic of Kenya, or city counties, that is Nairobi and Mombasa.
Right.
Theoretically, maybe these two cities are just below they are the biggest city in maybe even in East Africa. We had problems in the education history of both governors elected in those two big cities in the Republic of Kenya. That would point to you to the truth that maybe we find ourselves electing the least suitable people to lead us.
Right.
And these least suitable people, they have their own problems, and they can't deal with the big men up there. So you find ukitoka kwa reli kidogo, you have your own problems, unakamatwa nazo, urudishwe kwa reli. So I think that is our problem.
That is our problem. All right, thank you very much for that, Joshua. Let's hear from Christian now. Hello, Christian, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On this matter of Mike Sonko, first of all, let me make it clear. I don't support Mike Sonko. I don't like his antics. I think he should totally change how he operates.
Right.
But the law should not be applied when it suits the state. You cannot bring a charge sheet from 3 years ago and use it just after a weekend of him misbehaving somewhere, insulting the president.
Right.
That speaks of abuse of power and abuse of state power. Further to that, with the discussion was broader. We were discussing how the president should be respected. President Uhuru Kenyatta has brought this on himself. He has made his bed, he should lie on it. What was he doing with people like Mike Sonko in the first place? When Moi was president, when Kibaki was president, there was no equivalent Mike Sonko next to the president. It never happened. There are tons of funny characters that you can give examples of who are close to the president who should not be. And beyond the president himself, I also blame the people who are in charge of the president's diary and people in charge of just the president's presence.
His handlers, in other words.
The president. His handlers, exactly, that's the word.
So you're
his
saying
handlers have failed.
So essentially,
his handlers have failed.
Christian, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. Those are the people that you have around you, so it taints you.
Also, President Uhuru Kenyatta himself has gone on a spree of insulting people for years. He called the judiciary Wakora by terming Maraga as Amkora. He is the same person who called Raila Odinga Modo Muguruki or something. I guess translates to madman.
Right.
He said that. He has insulted people. He summons MPs, and from what we hear is that he insults them.
I hear you, Christian. Thanks for your comments this morning. Asante sana. Let's hear from others. Let's hear from John in Nairobi. John, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Fine. I'm sure cities are old enough to know what happened to Nyachaya one time. The late Nyachaya, one time when it is agreed with Moi.
Yes.
City can tell you the story of what happened to Nyachaya.
I will ask him later.
Ask him, he'll tell you. Secondly,
why don't you tell us what happened? Because clearly you're also old enough to know what happened, to be able to refer to it.
If you know what happened to Nyachaya, then you'll understand what is happening to Sonko. And secondly, and more importantly, I think this is just exposing us of who we are as a society. This is somebody who has a certificate of good conduct. How do you get a certificate of good conduct?
With all this flurry of things following you.
Exactly, yes. How do you get that a certificate? You become an MP, you become a senator, you become a governor, and then suddenly you are a criminal. And thirdly, and also more importantly, you remember we were talking about the MCAs and the cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing which was coming on and on is that the timing. Remember we were talking about the timing.
Yes, the timing didn't look good at all. It plays the same way here.
This one, Yeah, it plays the same way. We're asking ourselves the timing. It may be okay, the guy may be a criminal, but again, the timing.
The timing, it
is the
doesn't look
issue.
good. John Asante Sana.
Kalonzo the other day. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You had Kalonzo
Yes.
Kalonzo yesterday say he was addressing the president while he's talking about our friend Sonko. This is somebody in court. Why would Kalonzo address the president talking about Sonko?
You're saying, we can take responsibility.
And he's telling the president, toa hiyo mkono hapo kidogo. That's the message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. All right, let's hear from Gilbert in Nakuru. Gilbert, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Yep, I want to say something about Sonko. Sonko is long overdue.
What's long overdue?
That he should be arrested because they bought vehicles and branded T-shirts and banned vehicle along Gong Road on pretense of it ODM. That's what he said himself. And then you see, we have a government. The government is taking the rule of the day. You can hear all the president saying that mulikuwa mnafuta zigara kubwa na yeye. President needs respect.
So in this case, he's getting what he deserves, according to you?
According to me, yes. Long overdue. It should have been done kitambo.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from Mwangi in Nairobi. Hello, Mwangi. Good morning. Hello, Mwangi.
Sonko got what is due to him.
Okay.
Let me just chime in a little bit. Simply because of the fact that the same state machinery he used has been used against him. So Sonko's got what's been coming a long time ago. You cannot simply forget that the same machinery you've been using on other people in his own county could easily be turned against him. And this is what we're seeing now. Whether those things is done are true or not does not matter. But the machinery is taking place and treating him like it would treat any other citizen.
Right.
If you went and spoke badly about the president, even online, as a regular citizen who has done no crime, there's a high chance some people are going to come knocking on your door.
Well, there you go.
The same thing is happening with, this exact same thing is happening with Sonko. So I think he's just simply politicizing it so that it can look like it is politics. That these people are doing this to me because I said this about the president, but the reality is not that.
The reality is not that.
Yes.
Thanks for your insights, Mwangi. All right, before we go to a break, let's take one last call. Abdi, good morning. Hello, Abdi, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well.
This country needs a very straight and honest dictator. Yeah, to streamline things from the top, going down.
Yeah.
Because every day, anyone can wake up in the morning and say
whatever they want.
They want. Today you wake up, you read the papers, 70 million is gone. Nothing has been brought.
Are you suggesting perhaps that our civil liberties should be curtailed?
No, not in that way. As in, if you do things in a particular way, straight, honest, and you don't look on the side, friends, stuff. Because if you see, most of these things, corruption, there must be a friend of maybe a CS. He cannot stretch his hand and say, city has done this. No, they can't do that because that's my friend. Let's say you see these things, they come up like today's paper, what you said. Tomorrow you won't hear it.
You won't hear it tomorrow.
I'm telling you. Because how can you miss an office? You give someone money, then tomorrow
you take it away and they're not there.
How?
Thank you very much for your insights, Abdi. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're taking a break right now, but we will be back and we will continue.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
All right, the sun's still
The
up
weather
in Nairobi.
with-
Sunny conditions throughout most of today. Highs of 29 and lows of 17. It's sunny in Nyeri at 15, going to highs of 26 today. We'll see highs of 29 in Nakuru. It's mostly cloudy at 16. 27 the high in Eldoret. 11 degrees and sunny at the moment. It's 22, quite warm in Kisumu. Mostly cloudy now. Highs of 32 and lows of 21. 19 degrees in Kakamega and mostly sunny. Highs of 31. 33 will be the high in Mombasa. It's partly sunny at 26. It's also 26 in Malindi and going to highs of 32 and lows of 26. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 22, highs of 28. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 25, highs of 32. And we're looking at highs of 22 in Johannesburg, where it's raining this morning at 17. It's also raining in Lagos at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. And we'll go to a high of 33 in Kinshasa, where it's sunny at the moment at 24.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, is it looking
Traffic.
any better? Well, yes, in some parts. Mombasa Road seems to be flowing a little bit more smoother after the capital centre. It slows down a little bit as you get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Out towards Uhuru Highway, that's a mess. Bumper to bumper, not moving as quickly right now. Into the CBD and outbound. Also, there's some heavy traffic outbound on Uhuru Highway out past Westlands. And so it is Friday, folks going away for the weekend. This we understand. Coming off of Gong Road, very slow. Right around Gong Town, that is slow. And also we looked at Limuru Road before, where it is actually locked. It's not moving past the village market and then out towards the Aga Khan Hospital. Wangari Maathai Road is your friend this morning. She'll help you out there and you won't be too stuck if you take the longer route into the CBD. Okay, let us know if you're stuck anywhere. Spice of MKE on Twitter, text 40127. It's Friday, it's crazy, but we want to keep it moving either way.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Spice FM. Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
This is Kenya's biggest
done right.
conversation.
94.4
in Nairobi. If you're in Malindi, you're on 97.7. We're online as well. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spice FMKE, and on KTN Home this morning. The conversation continues with myself, Nduoko, and Siti Muga in the studio today, and we're asking ourselves the question, with the recent things that have been happening to former immediate governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, is it that the state is coming for him because of the statements that he made, or he's been a bad egg from the very beginning, and there's certain things that should not have been allowed? Is that the question? Has he done the things that he's being accused of, or is he a victim of state power because he said things that are not palatable with the state? Where are we with this? Now, it seems as though, people are saying, well, you know what, regardless of what he may or may not have done, because we understand that these cases are in court, regardless of what he may or may have not done, that the power of the state should not be used him to press in a negative manner. He should be allowed the liberties that everybody else would be allowed. But then you ask yourself the question, which liberties are these that are allowed by people? Is what is happening to him not the same thing that happens to citizens across board every day? Like you say, being held in remand for days, nobody even knows where your file is. It's been thrown away. Nobody even knows of your existence. Is that happening to people on a daily basis in this country? Is it just because this individual used to be the governor of the county of Nairobi, and that's why we're seeing it like this? Or was he, behaving in a bad manner from the beginning? Should state power be used against him in the way in which it's happening now? It would seem as if that everything at the state's disposal is being used to keep this fellow away. And it has happened at a time immediately after he said certain things. Before we didn't hear such things coming out. We'd like to hear from you. 0719 012 600. And Sammy's on the line from Magarini in Malindi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Zami.
How are you doing, Jen?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Okay. I think what you are saying is actually that Sonko was actually not actually convicted of this or actually any accusation. And in fact, we know that before this, Sonko has been actually uttering out some of the words that were unbelievable. But no one actually dared to take him to the court. But only after that he was still falling apart with the government is now that they are handing for him. In another case is of Kangata. Kangata, after writing the letter to the president, he was actually sued, actually allegations that he had created some of the funds. I don't know what type of funds that. So the question is, why have they not accused him before writing this the last particular letter, or why was not Sonko accused before? We all know that Sonko was actually being accused of involving video in that act of actually, banning on 2017.
Right.
But that, we are not hearing of that anymore, but we are hearing of insulting the president, uttering some of that. We know that these are the things that have been kept aside for some time, awaiting him. And we know there are so many in these offices, the members of parliament, governors who have been uttering such words, but now no one has taken them to the court, or no one has even accused them. So we know these are returned by the government because Sonko is no longer in the camp of the president.
Interesting. So you're saying that if they were serious about these charges, they would have brought them against him even before?
Yeah, even before. And why keep him in the custody? It's actually it is his right to be given a bail.
All right. Well, valid points. Definitely. Let's hear from George. Thank you very much, Sammy. George, good morning. Hello, George.
Hello. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good.
Yes. Go ahead. Weigh in here.
Now, about Sonko. Sonko has brought all this to himself. He knew that he had a dark past. And despite all that, he was able to get into leadership. But the problem is, when he got into leadership, he forgot about his past and felt that he was part of the leadership of this country.
Isn't that what we're asked to do, though? Forget your past and move into the future?
No, you don't. If you know that your past is dark, then you have to mend or be good for the future.
Okay.
But for him, he's always been walking in the mud. He has all the desires of people, true or false.
Well,
but then this does not make him right anyway. Now, the problem that he has is he is like Lucifer in the Bible. God and Lucifer differed.
Yes.
And that is a problem that even the president is getting.
Yeah.
It's because of the character of the people who are around him, the million of the people around him.
Right.
This is what is bringing the problem.
Understood.
So if they would be able to know who they are and to correct their past and look brightly for the future, things would be okay. And in fact, the leadership actually forgot about his past because he was working with them. Now, because he started hurling stones on them,
they took
that
notice.
is when yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those insights, George. Zachary in Nakuru, good morning. Hello, Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning, people.
How
Morning,
are you?
Zachary.
I'm okay, Mwalimu. Where is our friend Eric?
He's sailing on the high seas, but he'll be back.
Nobody has asked about him, but me, I care so much about all of
I
you.
will make sure that when he is here, that I will let him know that it was you.
Sure, I hope he is good.
He's good.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think what I wanted to say has been said by all those gracious callers, and even you people, because the white man told us, show me your friends, and I tell your character. That one has been said, and it is you who said it, isn't it? And also, there is also that one that I'm going to add.
Yes.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
Okay? Those are the things that are affecting our beloved president, Mr. Uhuru, and also our friend, Mr. Sonko. Both of them are buddies, okay?
Yeah.
And in fact, I am not even following their cases because after some time you will find them cheering, say cheers, you know?
Yeah.
There is this old lawyer, Mr. Haminwa. yesterday he posed a very, very, very good question to a judge. How comes that Sonko, it is only the last 2 weeks that we have realized, this is a very serious criminal who needs to be separated from the rest of the society. Okay? If I was a judge, I would have posted there and said, okay, who gives this guy the certificate of good conduct so that he can be what he has been?
In the first place, yeah.
Do you understand? If I were a judge, that is what I would have done. I would have said, okay, you are telling that this is a criminal, okay. Now he has been a senator. He has been a governor. He has been an MP, okay? And you want to tell me that we were bride or you are in Mecca when we were dining with him and doing all manner of things.
You were present. You were present in the moment. Yeah, and then you realize.
Let me say this: if I were a president today, not even a president, even a chief or a mayor,
yes,
sub chief. There are so many ways that I can deal with my enemy, who was my former friend, to completely silence him. I don't need to take him to court or to do all this drama, okay?
So it's not the state.
Uhuru has got so many powers and so many roots. Sonko for forever, okay?
All right. Zachary, I've got to take somebody else. Aaron has been holding up for a while, so let me hear from him.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
Thank you, Zachary.
All right. Aaron in Elgeyo Marakwet, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Okay. Let me say this about Mr. Songo.
Yes, what do you think?
Let me speak in Kiswahili. I don't...
Kiswahili is good, my brother.
Works.
Continue.
Kiingereza sio mdomo wangu. Sasa wacha mimi nataka niseme hivi kwa bwana Songo Unajua Songo ile makosa amefanya ni kusema hayo mambo saa hii. Unajua hata ukiwa katika kazi ya security mkienda mahali mufanye tuseme mufanye mauaji mahali fulani and in case wewe upatikane, in case wewe ufutwe kazi baada ya miaka 3 miaka 5 alafu useme wale ambao wako kule tuliua nao wenye mulikuwa nao hawatafuatwa, lawama yote itakuwa ni yako. Itasemekana umetoa siri ya forces na itachukuliwa kama wewe peke yako ndio ulikuwa katika hiyo vita. Sasa Songo alifanya makosa sana. Angetacha hayo mambo yalikuwa yamepita. Songo angeanzisha maisha yake kama Waititu alijinyamasia. Waititu anajua mambo mengi katika serikali lakini alijinyamasia. Lakini Songo sasa hivi aliongea akapayuka. Sasa mimi naunga mkono, acha Songo akae huko. Achifunze mambo yake polepole. Ajue alikuwa katika kikosi kingine na alifutwa kazi. Na ukishafutwa kazi, waachana na mambo na kikosi. Usiseme siri ya kikosi.
Ni hivyo.
Ni hivyo. Sasa Songo akae huko ndani mpaka akiri yeye mwenyewe alikuwa anatenda hayo mambo. Asihusishe watu wengine. Akae huko afinywe vizuri mpaka aseme mimi ndio nilitenda hayo makosa mimi peke yangu.
Asante sana. Thank you very much for that, Aaron. Asante. Let's hear from Solomon in Mombasa. Solomon, good morning. You've been holding for a minute. Hello, Solomon.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
I have one word to say for Sonko.
Just one.
Just use a sentence that the internet never forgets. You see, what you do unto others, 10 years down the line, people will judge you by that. Yeah? And people will use that against you. And even CT gives us some proverbs. Maybe one day, 10 years from now, we'll judge from one of the proverbs that he explains to us. Yes?
Yes.
And this internet has posted a lot of even bloggers and many prominent people.
Of what he has
even
said.
a case like for example, like Pauline Njoroge posted about the Nairobi National Park in regards to SGR. That was 5 years ago. It costed him a job.
Her a job, yes, it
costed
did.
her a job.
Yeah.
So people should always know that the internet never forgets. Whatever you do, people have videos, people save for anything that and then they only use that against you.
And it will definitely come back.
it will come back in equal measures. And Orengo said, it will always hurt the people who are in government most than the ones who are in opposition.
Thank you very much for that, Solomon. Asante sana. All right, let's hear from James in Donholm. James, good morning. Hello, James.
Hi, Ndu.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. CT is here as well.
I'm happy at least I'm a first-time caller.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. And in regards to our governor, our former governor, you know, they usually say the wheels of justice grind slow, but they'll still catch up with you.
Sure, yes.
But it does not specify when. But indeed, they still catch up with you.
Yes.
And in that respect, for me, what this guy has been doing, at least, there are some people who have really gone through hard times, especially in City Hall, and they have unforetold stories which people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you do some background check on the City Hall staff, who went through hell and his leadership, some of those people can absolutely tell you that he belongs there now. He is. So at the end of the day, whatever you do to people, you just know it can come
back to you.
Yeah, because he was at one time he was in charge of those state machinery. He oppressed people in the same machinery, not knowing that it can come back to him. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much for that, James. All right. Coming in hot and heavy, let's hear from Joseph in Rongai this morning. Joseph, habari asubuhi. Hello, Joseph.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to say that I think the issue of Songo is the demonstration of the failure of the implementation of Chapter 6, leadership and integrity. Because in the first place, we all knew Songo when he was a senator, how he used to behave, how we ended up electing him as a governor in Nairobi is a big issue.
But you did. 800,000 of you.
I'm in Kajiado, but how people in Nairobi ended up electing somebody like him.
Right.
So basically what I'm saying is that Chapter 6 needs to be implemented so that we avoid people like Sonko taking leadership and driving this country into the woods.
Right.
Because it doesn't, we knew him. We knew that he had escaped from jail. We knew that all the hills he had done, and he had admitted him himself. So I'm surprised that we are surprised to see what we are seeing now.
It shouldn't come as a shock.
No,
according to you,
all,
it should not come as a shock, right?
And what we should be doing, what our legislators should be doing right now, is pushing Chapter 6 to be. I know it may touch them, but it should be implemented so that we don't go back there again.
All right, Asante Sana Joseph.
Thank you.
Still taking your calls this morning on 0719-012-600. Let's hear from Raphael, who's calling from Turkana. CT will tell us what county number that is at some point.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Raphael Lewoy.
Yes, Raphael.
Calling from Kakuma.
Oh, Kakuma. All right. Okay.
Yes. What I can say, Kenya nasema about Sonko, if I can remember what Orengo once said, alikuwa anasema, this government, it's own children. So Sonko alisahau alikuwa kwa serikali. Na wakati huu saizi yeye alikuwa anaropoka na Mr. President ni mtu mkubwa. Na yeye akasahau ya kuwa President is the commander in chief.
Right.
So Sonko saizi venye yako wacha tu akae ndani na paka akubali alifanya makosa.
Makosa kwa nani? That's the question.
Amekosea wananchi na amekosea serikali.
Okay.
Yeah, na kuvaa hiyo hata kama ya serikali ya askari. Unajua ni makosa, hakuna mtu mwenye ako above the law.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Raphael. Can we take a few more calls? Let's hear from Vincent in Eldoret. Good morning, sir. Hello, Vincent.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to say something about the former governor. I want to say that as much as the governor did what he did, what the government is doing to him right now is not right. Because when you see how he's being treated all around, being taken as though he's a terrorist, I don't think that is the right way to go as a country at this moment. The justice must be followed, and all due process should be followed instead of all these shenanigans going around on him. I don't agree with what he did, and I always say it is good to respect everybody. It's not right. It's not right. But as we speak, as we stay like this, many people have said a lot of things. But the selective application of justice is not the right way to go as a country. As we know that we are approaching the elections, which is 1 year to come, it's very good that people should be united as one. Let people come together and live as a country, and we will see many good things for our country.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Vincent. Let's hear from Nathan. Before we see what you're saying on social media this morning. Nathan, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Now, I'll be very short and brief.
Okay.
People used to say that what goes around always comes around.
Yeah.
I think it is Sonko's time to pay back.
Oh, okay.
That's what I can say for.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
Yes.
All right, so let's see what folks are saying on social media this morning. Quite a lot, all right? One word for honourable former governor, according to Mbeva. Some truths are not said aloud. Victor says, for me, what Mike Sonko did was not good, and he should serve as an example to those leaders who are like him. I'm tuned in from Kisumu. All right. Kamau says, whether political or not, his loose tongue is toxic and shouldn't be tolerated at all. Sonko is just a good example of a hustler who got into power, and this is according to Robert Kipkemboi. Reckless, careless, intuitive, rather insultive, not intuitive, and not worthy occupying any office. A man with questionable past and character, a typical example of demolition squad. All right. John Dungo says, never throw stones if you live in a glass house. They might be political, but we all know Sonko is not an angel. Raquel says, I know you will never realize a mistake until it is too late. That is what Sonko did. Okay, listening to the speech made by Sonko prior to his arrest for the second time, he deserves to be where he is more than he should. They are purely political, nothing more. That's according to Kimani Shege. And Sonko's ignorance is what makes the government press him to that extent. The government knows what he possesses, and the only way to cut out is to silence him. Sonko woes goes beyond politics, and that's according to Samuel Gunner. My goodness, everybody has an opinion about this one. But look at it, is that, in as much as the government might be using state power, if we're going to accept that as a thing or not, the thing also is that in people's minds, there's something or two that he did that has tainted his image.
But at what point are security forces just doing what they're supposed to do? And at what point do we now then give it a baptism and call it state power? If I'm arrested for running a red light, or if I'm arrested for overlapping or parking in a yellow line and I'm arrested, is the state using its power, or have I committed an offense and I'm being arrested for the offense I have committed?
The thing that folks are saying, though, I think it has some merit, is that these things didn't happen 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago. They happened in some cases years ago. So the optics of it now is that why bring these into contention now? Why at the time where they are said to have been done? Why was there not a call for his arrest? Why was there not a call for his charge when these things actually happened? It would appear that because he said things in the manner in which he did, now you're saying, all right, here's something that I have in my arsenal. Let me bring it out and use it against you. I could have used it before, but I didn't because we were in good books. That's what it looks like.
Something happened in America, something very interesting, around the time when the immediate former president was leaving. People who were pardoned, they were offered clemency. Meaning, some of them had not been charged in a court of law. Some had been charged in a court of law. But some cases had not actually been proven. But they were offered clemency. Presidents have that power. Our president in 2016 pardoned 7,000 petty offenders. Yani, meaning clean slate, gone. Okay? You don't know. Now, why am I bringing the issue of presidential pardons? If someone has the power to pardon you from any ill, and by the only thing in America they can't free you from is impeachment. But everything else, murder, you name it, you can be pardoned. Okay, what other powers do you think that such a person has?
Listen to what Orengo said. That's a quote that we're going to read. Senator Orengo said at some point in the not too distant past, sometimes revolutions eat their own children. Governments eat their own people. This government is going to punish you more than they will punish me. I'm telling you, in another 1 year, you'll be crying in my office to come and represent you. That's what he said.
The man has been in the trenches for a long time.
He gets it.
No, he gets it very, 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 very clearly. I mean, there's very little that he has not seen in terms of the changes that has happened. People keep quoting this quote that people like. Familiarity breeding contempt.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell them that actually the origination of this particular quotation was in the 1300s. Not previous century, previous centuries. A gentleman by the name of Geoffrey Chaucer, okay, in one of his books, The Tale of Melibek. That is where this particular phrase first took hold, and it's from there that it spread to what it is now, many, many centuries ago. Yes.
So what you're trying to say is that this thing that we are seeing started a very, very long time ago. It wasn't just as a result of what we're seeing
it's human
now.
nature.
It's human nature. It's things that are done regardless.
And centuries can't undo it. No. It's a truism. It doesn't matter what you do. This one, you can't twist out of it. You can't twist into it. Some of the most potent enmities are born out of people who are once tight comrades. Look very carefully, and you'll find it's something that you will see over and over and over and over.
And
again.
had people not said things in a certain way, they would still be part of that camaraderie.
They would.
But this is what we see playing out here, that
Yes.
it could be that because you said certain things, camaraderie out the window, and not just we will no longer be friends, but I will probably use my position of influence to make sure that you never come back and that you will learn your lesson properly.
When there's a time for you to eat your vegetables, just eat them silently and even look happy while you're at it.
Seems like that's what he's doing now. All right, we're going to take a break right here on the Situation Room. It's also time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. It's been a fantastic week. We're going to join you again next week on Monday from 7 to 9. But now time for us to say goodbye, and you can join the conversation again on Spice FM. You can do that online as well on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're taking a break on Situation Room. We'll be back in a moment.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
All right, you're tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. This is a Situation Room. Nduoko and Siti Muga in the studio this morning. We're going to take a few more of your calls as we look at this conversation and how it has opened up. And it seems that quite a lot of folk have a lot of things to say in terms of what they feel. In as much as, and I hear one thing coming out, the psyche of people is, in as much as, Siti, the government may be using his power, it doesn't appear that the image of the former governor has been squeaky clean either. So state power could be being used here, but they still seem that he has a case to answer
Why
for.
are we presenting it as though the state is doing something they shouldn't
Because
do?
of the timing, CT. Because of the timing.
No,
it
it's
doesn't
not
look
the
really
timing.
good. It is.
It's not the
they could have
timing,
used.
dude.
They could have done this at any time.
It's not the timing. It's the politics of it. You see, if we were talking about this and some other person who was not a politician and who was not affiliated to either this top political person or the other, we would have been saying they wanted to ensure that there was ample evidence before they took the steps. Because we also have many cases that have been thrown out in our court because of insufficient evidence.
Okay, let's hear what Hussein has to say. Hussein, good morning.
Morning. So mine is just to just get a clarification. Is it the presidency or the president? What does the law say?
With regards
when someone abuses the presidency as an institution or the president? Well, there's a president, the individual president himself.
Right.
Because I think that people are just overblowing this thing out of proportion. I mean, the president should not be actually responding to Sonko.
Mm-hmm.
And the people here who are talking about, Sonko, the president should not surround himself with Sonko and all that. Sonko was the governor of Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a function in Nairobi, so is there and the president is invited, Sonko has to say something. He is the governor of Nairobi. So right now, he's the former governor. He's just a mere citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So if he abuses the president, I think, looks so cheap in going after him. And in fact, actually, the people that the president should stop are the people who are going after Sonko.
But Hussein, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Is the president going after him, or is the law simply following the processes that legal processes follow when someone perpetrates or does something that is against the law? Surely. You see, the president is being brought into a discussion, and we are forgetting the discussion about whether it is possible that actually there's something that Sonko actually did.
Okay, we can look at the allegations of terrorism and all that. We can look at it separately.
Yes.
But now, guys are actually relating this to the abuses towards the president.
Mm.
And probably it might not actually be towards the president. Now it is time now to revisit what happened in Shimolatewa, what happened in your meetings, what were you trying to do in mobilizing militia and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is understandable. But now us as Kenyans looking at it from an angle whereby this is not a banana republic, whereby actually this is the biggest democracy in East and Central Africa, if not the whole of Africa. Yeah, we don't expect this president to actually go after a former politician, a mere citizen, just because of some few instances.
Okay.
Yeah, so mine is actually, if it is about that, then it's very, very unfortunate for our president.
If that is actually the case, then it would be an unfortunate thing from where you are looking at it.
Yes.
Thanks for your valid points this morning, Hussein. Asante sana. Well, CT.
I haven't moved from the position that I took at the beginning of this discussion. When we now see the law being applied, why then, you see, we ourselves, it's like we also don't believe that the law should be applied uniformly. Our reaction and the responses tell us that it's like we are understanding that when someone is in a position of authority, the law applied to him should be slightly different from the one which applies to us as ordinary citizens of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that were not the case, then why are we making such a big hoo-ha? I am still asking the question, are the accusations valid? And if they are, then we will wait for the outcome.
We'll wait and see if those accusations are actually valid.
Is it?
But at the same time, CT, we can't ignore the timing wrapped around all of this.
That has been discussed so much. Even if I want to ignore it, I can't. But I'm going to ignore it because it can't take center stage in the discussion.
But it is an important factor because, I said, these charges or these cases that we are talking about now, they're not things that happened even 2020.
It is.
Right? Many years ago.
I am not disagreeing. I am
so it happens to be that when his impeachment has come about,
discussion we are going to have on this particular subject.
But when his impeachment has come about, and then he comes out after that and makes some statements, then these charges now have been given life. It does look a tad odd.
It's not odd. It is how political processes work. A blind eye can be turned away from an infraction because at that particular point in time it serves a political need. When it doesn't, or if you prove to be a nuisance, it's just a fact. All they have done is now turned the blind eye. It has gotten the gift of sight again. It can now see you clearly. That's what has happened. It's not as though...
Or that, this blind eye, since before you were in our good books, it wasn't really an issue. We're not going to look at it. But now, suddenly, when you're making these statements or saying these things, this eye will be opened. And hold on a minute. You were quiet in the corner for all this time and we were ignoring you and everything was all right. But then you started to grow a little bit of a horn here and there. So now this blind eye will be opened.
But it's something we all understand. In all honesty, we all do. What we're discussing here in our everyday life, it's something we understand. And people will say, that guy has gone beyond the limits.
So long as you're not kicking up a fuss, we're not really going to pay attention to
No,
you.
there are things that can be excused, forgiven, and let it pass. Then there are things they say, no, this one will not be forgotten. This one, attention has to be paid to this. A child who steals cookies, you assume they were probably hungry. Okay? When they then come into your room and either go into your pocket or your handbag and take money, then you start paying attention to this behavior and you realize, no, this child has thieving tendencies. Okay? Now you have a choice. You either do something about it or you ignore it. Now, when years later that same child is arrested because they've been involved in bank robbery, you can trace back the traits where that began and why it is that particular individual tended. And you, the parent, will be blamed because you had an opportunity
to rein him in and you didn't.
You had an opportunity to rein him in, yes.
Joseph Matalanga says, I may not have liked the theatrics of one Sonko, but truth be told, the government is not being sincere. Anyone who hails the now branded deep state and overly supports the said actions against another is a perfect example of a basic idiot. If only everyone, including the president, adhered by the rule of law, the constitution, then we would not be here. Let us not embrace the selected application of justice. We are the ones who gave him the good conduct clearance to run for the MP, senator, and then governor, and then we went ahead and voted him in. Sasa, what did we expect? Hatuwezi vuna mahindi kwa shamba tulipanda mihogo. Okay. So that's very interesting that he said that. What do we expect that was going to happen? But he says, in as much as his drama came about, didn't like the way in which he behaved, it looks as if it's being selective in how it applies its justice. The state now, that is.
The political position of Sonko was popular. I, myself, have even said, you can't ignore someone like Sonko because his politics and his following tells you something about the situation we have in the country.
It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, what's traffic looking like now? Mombasa Road not looking too bad. It's opened up on Limuru Road just a little bit. Whatever had caused that issue right around the village market now seems to be spreading along and traffic is moving. Not too bad. Outbound, Westlands also, we had some hold up there, but it's opening up some. You can use that road now. The Red Hill bypass always you can use. It is longer, but it works. Eastern and Southern bypass is also behaving very well this morning. However, I warn you, it is Friday. Anything can happen moving from 10 o'clock. So if you're not out, you might want to stay put and make your plans for another part of the day, or if you are out and you need to get out, now is the time to do so. Spice FMKE, talk to us through the day. However, we'll see what it looks like in about half an hour. Text us as well, 40127.
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
This morning, Kenya's biggest conversation, wherever you're tuned in from across the country, in Nairobi, you're on 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa, Nakuru's at 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, and 90.9 in Nyeri, Kisumu 102.5, and Malindi on 97.7. If you're tuned in online, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you're on Spice FMKE. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. In the studio this morning with myself, Nduoko. I'm not Siti Muga. At least not today. Today I'm Nduoko.
And neither are you Siti Eric.
You are Siti Muga. Eric Latif is not with us today, but Siti Muga is, and he's going to give us today's proverb.
Indeed, I am. He who fears the sun will not become chief.
He who fears the sun will not become chief. We're going to look at this in greater detail later on. But he who fears the sun will not become chief. We continue with our conversation this morning and looking at state power and how it can be brandished. I'm using brandished and how it can be used. But if you are in a situation, if you're just joining the conversation this morning, if you're in a situation whereby your past sins would come to haunt you, especially if you're not in good books with the government. And CT, you were trying to finish that point before we went on break.
Well, I'm asking the question. I'm going to continue asking it for the duration of this conversation. At what point is the state just doing what they're supposed to do? And at what point are they, as we say, brandishing or misusing their powers? What is it about the powers that are given to these state organs that constitutes misuse and just basic use? What is it? There are those who argue that when they pick on someone. So, okay, you see, every time I utter something, I realize that utterance even raises more question. Pick on. How? It's like we prefer to go with the narrative that something wrong is happening rather than asking, is there truth in what is actually being done? Yes, all the other questions that are being raised are valid. The timing, the this, the other, political positions, yes, but you cannot divorce the simple fact. Is there a possibility that the things that the individual is being accused of are actually true?
I don't think that's the issue, CT. I don't think the issue is that he did these things or not. People don't have a problem with that. I mean, you've heard what many people have said here.
Why don't they have a problem with that?
You've heard what many people have said, that it's not that the thing is that if you wanted to level these charges against him, you could have even leveled them when he was a sitting governor, because they were present then.
Yes.
They were present then.
Yes.
It is not because he said the things that he said that they came into existence. They existed before.
Yes.
So if there were such serious cases, if there was such serious allegations, why not bring that charge against him at that time when they came about? Why wait? Or are you saying that, all right, we're just going to keep this in our arsenal because it could serve us at some point?
Yes, you see, you have actually answered your own question.
It sounds
very
dodgy, CT. That, all right, I'm just going to keep this.
It's not dodgy, it's strategic.
I'm going to keep this little morsel because it could help me later when this guy decides that he's going to mess up. If it's a charge, if it's something wrong that you've done, bring it out now. Why are you keeping it?
It is strategic. It's not dodgy. It is strategic. We are talking about political situations, individuals who are themselves politicians, and we are talking about political actions, and we're talking about consequences of political activities. That's really what we're talking about here. If you belong to a certain party and you change positions, there are consequences. They always are. You may not think so, but they are. You hope at the time you're making the decision that the consequences will favor you. Now, when they don't, then they don't.
Then they don't favor you.
Yes, it's just a reality.
All right, we're going to keep taking your calls on this one. It's something that we need to crack open and just really hear and understand what folks are really thinking about this. Let's hear from Mishak, who's calling in from Barton. Good morning, Mishak. Hello.
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 Yes. The belief that the political class really should be treated different by the law, I think is misguided.
Okay.
Because, well, why that is, when this is happening to Mike Sonko, guys who wanted to make it.
Okay, I think we've lost him. All right, let's hear from Karaoke in Wakulima. You can call back on that one. Karaoke, good morning. Hello, Karaoke.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yes. Tell us, what do you think about this?
Myself.
Yes.
Myself, I think this is witch hunting. That's what I know.
Oh, you know.
We can go back to history. I've heard what you're saying, Doka. And I think you are right. If at all this gentleman committed such a crime as they are now saying, they are now presented before the court, terrorism and whatever, I think the action could have been taken a long time ago. Remember, my dear.
Yes.
2002, when Midio was saying, if you can recall, Midio was saying that the current president, the behavior, when they were United States, Can you recall that?
Yes, Karaoke, and you think you need to move from where we can't hear you very well. So, I mean, there seems to be some noise where you are. All right, maybe we'll hear back from you, Karaoke. Let's hear from Lydia. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning. Now,
yes,
I was saying hii mambo yote ni ya kuelewa kwa sababu mtu akiwa na wivu.
Hello? Yes, go ahead, Lydia.
Mtu akiwa na wivu kwa sababu ya mtu ambaye ameendelea vizuri kabisa, maisha yake imekuwa mazuri. Okay, siwezi sema niko na proof ya kwamba hajafanya kosa lolote, lakini hii nchi yetu imekuwa na wivu sana.
So nani ako na wivu?
Nasema watu ambao wameanza kusema yeye ndiye mwenye makosa zaidi. Yeye ndiye makosa zaidi. I cannot prove, but what I'm saying, hiyo maneno angeitwa kitambo ili auliza kwa nini alifanya hivyo, kwa nini hakutekeleza yale aliyokuwa anafaa kufanya. Lakini saa hizi ndio anaanza kusema amefanya hivi, amefanya hivi, ingefanywa kitambo.
All right. Asante sana, Lydia. Thank you very much for your comments this morning. Asante. Well, I mean, there you have it. CT timing would have been done a long time ago if there really was an issue with it, no?
You know, it's like saying that you are the one who can determine whether it is too early or too late or too soon or too prompt when the organs of state that deal with such matters act. We actually don't. And when you have political will being applied to a situation such as this one, why I refer to the word strategy is because you honestly cannot say that these are people who didn't know. Of course they know. What I would have asked is, why did they want such a person in the first place? I would start there. They knew about him. They knew about his history. Because many political positions are long-term games, not short-term, long-term. Why did they want such a person? And why make such a person rise to the position of one of the highest roles in the country? You head the largest, most prosperous county in the entire country. And this is the track record. Why? Didn't they know? They did. I would ask the question, why? Why? The truth is, this gentleman we speak as though this is some despicable character. No. This is a popular person who people actually like. This is a person who represents a certain ethos that some people subscribe to, and in large numbers. This gangster narrative, man, it sells. It's a modern day Robin Hood tale. Okay? And he represents someone whose ideology, whose way of life people can resonate with. Whether you're talking about the bling, whether you're talking about the utterances, believe me, it fits very, very well with certain people who actually look at life in that same way. And they are not few. So, are we saying now, people use the word witch hunt. My friend, if you look at the term and the terminology, apart from the fact that Christianity, in the absence of Christianity, this issue of witches and the hunting of them would never have arisen. But witches were considered to be contrary. Everything they believed in was contrary to what was considered normal Christian behavior. And the way witches were dealt with, they were burnt at the stake. And often, the evidence that was required was somebody accusing you. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else, anything that you were doing on a normal basis would now be considered in that light that since you're a witch, it had to do with witchery, it had to do with witchcraft, it had to do with something wrong.
Against somebody.
You were guilty as accused. So the issue of actually proving that you're innocent, the West, as we call it, Europe and the West, they stopped burning witches in the 18th century. That's when they stopped. In this country, you still hear of witches being burnt. And what's the evidence? Someone found this and the other and the other. Do you hear of witches being taken to a court of law? Hardly. What am I saying? If someone knows that there's something about you that cannot stand the glare of light, and they keep quiet about it, there is a reason why they've kept quiet. And when it then becomes an issue, which it could have been much earlier, there is a reason why it is becoming an issue at that point in time. Whether it constitutes a witch hunt, I don't think so. What it constitutes, at the best, is a falling out.
You think this is just a falling out? See, it is a falling out here, but then the consequences of this falling out is that somebody could spend very, very long time in jail. They could have, if the charges being leveled against them and they were found guilty or whatever. But it would seem as if, in as much as you have the power to press, you also have the power to save. And now those statements that were made by Kalonzo Musyoka yesterday, please, who was he talking to directly? Please, hand him over to me. I'll set this boy aright, this young man aright. I'll set him right. But please, don't make him suffer, because it looks as if that's where it's going, right? That is where it's going. It's also implied. It's also being implied also by Musyoka's request. It's being implied that things are going as quickly as they are going because somebody has their foot on the pedal. And so he's essentially asking, just release your foot a little bit, hand him over to me, I'll deal with him. But the way in which this is going, we would ruin his life, and we don't actually need to do that. Implying that the power is in the hands of the state and they are the ones who are pushing this agenda. So you could actually relax if you wanted to.
Look, if you want a political discussion, we now have one. Kalonzo Musyoka, if I'm to take what he has said into context, has actually begun campaigning. Mike Sonko comes from his neck of the woods. Mike Sonko is popular. It doesn't matter what someone says or thinks. He actually has a following. He is popular. Now, you would seem a very careless leader if you didn't appear to actually be putting forward a case that would favor someone from your neck of the woods. That is politics. Sheer politics. Have we heard this same gentleman saying, castigating, warning, cautioning this particular gentleman whom he will now set straight previously? No. Why now? If you want to ask a why now question, why now? Why suddenly is he presenting himself as somebody who would be savior? This is a full-grown man.
Okay, well, there is another question that we ought to be looking at in terms of, should it be that you can save your political brother, or in this case, son, by virtue of the fact that you stand in good political stead? Should you be able to save him? And should those requests then be listened to? We're going to take a look at what's happening in the skies right now. I know CT wants to answer that question really badly, so we'll come back and hear what the answer to that is.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, Nairobi is going to go to highs of 29 today. It's sunny now at 18. In Nyeri, 15 degrees, sunny conditions, highs of 25, and coming back to lows of 13. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 16, highs of 29. 11 degrees and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 27 and lows of 14. Mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 22, highs of 32 and lows of 21. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 19, highs of 31 and lows of 18. 25 will be the low in Mombasa, where it's partly sunny at 26, going to highs of 33. 26 and partly sunny in Malindi, highs of 32 and lows of 26. We're looking at lows of 19 in Kampala, where it's 22 and mostly sunny at the moment. Mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 26. It continues to rain in Johannesburg at 17, highs of 22. We're looking at light rain also in Lagos, 27 at the moment, highs of 33 and lows of 26. Sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 33. It's getting quite warm in Beijing at 12. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of -4. Light rain in Paris at 7. There's a chance of flooding later in some parts of the city. Highs of 12 and lows of 7. And 8 degrees and cloudy conditions in London at 11. That's going to be the high, coming down to lows of 2. It's now early Friday morning in New York and it's 2 degrees and clear. It'll go to highs of 6 and lows of -1.
Are you ready? Okay. Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
Biggest conversation in the studio this morning, Nduoko and Siti Muga. And we're looking at all the intrigues that are playing around now. We looked at the part of Mike Mbuvi Sonko and the charges that are being leveled against him and what looks like this zoo of activities being moved from one court to the next. And it would appear to a number of people that state power is being employed to really lay a statement down. Now, let's look at the other part of this conversation. Look at the other part of these intrigues, especially with what we had when Kalonzo Musyoka came out very clearly yesterday and spoke directly to the president. He wasn't speaking to anybody else. He was not speaking to Kenyans. He was not speaking to the courts. He was not speaking to the judiciary. He was speaking to the president. And he said, please, release this man to me. Whatever it is that he has done, we accept we know that there may have been mistakes, but please don't destroy his life, essentially, is what is being done. So, number one, you are giving credence to this belief that the power is actually in your hands. Number two, you're upset over something that he has done and you want to teach him a lesson. Number three, you can actually save him and remove your foot from the gas if you want to. Number four, you're now saying, I am a respectable man. I am respectable as a leader, as an elder. This guy comes from the same place that I am in. I actually hold the power. I hold the responsibility to be able to do something about his errant behavior. So please, release him to me and I will deal with him. What do you make of that?
Look, we keep saying, if we go by what is being reported as the statements made by one of our former vice presidents, one Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka, asking the president to ease his foot on the pedal. Look, maybe the foot was on the pedal all along. And it is him who was preventing what is happening now from happening. So all he has done is said, okay,
I'm not driving this vehicle anymore.
That protection, gone. Let the law take its course. Says, guys, just do what you need to do. I am no longer holding you back. That has not been discussed. And as for this is perhaps that Sonko may be a political mentee of Kalonzo's, no such thing. Look at one movie, Sonko's history, of the way he has risen in the political world. It was nowhere near. He may know Kalonzo Musyoka, they may even talk. That isn't the influencing factor in this person's life.
We've never really seen them buddy up.
No, it has never existed because it has never existed. All right? The man was not even in Jubilee. He started his career in ODM. Please understand how this thing has risen. He is not, in as far as one can be, he was a self-made man. In as far as a politician can be. That is the direction you would take. And if you look at the progression he has made, he has understood the nuances of politics and has moved in accordance with the nuances that he has understood. It's just that he got to a point, I think, he didn't understand the limits. And it's in going beyond the limits. See, we are looking at the state and it appears that the president is being blamed. And one isn't taking pause and saying, maybe the president has been protecting him all along and has simply decided, folks, why don't you just do what you're supposed to do? Because it appears that the very thing that one Mr. Kalonzo is trying to say he wants to do is what the president is doing, saying, look, perhaps I've been doing the wrong thing. Maybe if I let the law take its course, perhaps this gentleman may understand certain things that I've wanted him to understand that he cannot seem to understand.
But bringing another part of it also, then I think that it would be an affront to many Kenyans to hear this, that there is a place that exists within these political circles that I can have a word with you and I can say, okay, we can see that the law is going to take its course, but let there be an intervention by an individual, and then we can save the situation. We can see that you've been irritated. We can see that the law has been broken. But here it is, that there are more special people than others in this country, that you can make a suggestion that rather than allow the law take its course, because now we've changed this conversation, CT. Now that we are seeing that the law is going to take its course, that it would seem that there's a special protection that can be accorded to certain people, because the effrontery to even ask that question, there's a certain audacity in the request that Kalonzo Musyoka has made. Because by the time, in most cases, by the time you are making a request, CT, even on a normal thing, you know that there's a possibility of acceptance of that request, no?
That's why you make it.
That's why you make it in the first place, because you know that there is a chance that you would be given in the affirmative. You also realize the possibility that it could be a no. But more than not, it is the possibility that this thing could be granted. So upon that, there's the audacity to go forward and ask, because the possibility exists. For me, it's an affront to Kenyans to say that, okay, if this law is taking its course, then all that needs to happen, because of the speciality of certain people in certain circles, that you can go and make a request to the president and say, instead of pressing down with the law, give him to me as an individual and I'll sort him out. How many people would like to be asked that their godfather or proposed godfather could come and sort them out of a situation where the legal authorities are taking their position? Who wouldn't want that?
Consider one, Kalonzo Musyoka is a seasoned politician.
Well, yes.
He is a seasoned politician. Sonko is a very popular politician, all right? When you latch yourself onto the cause of someone who's popular, it may appear like you're drawing attention to the person and the unfortunate circumstances they find themselves in. But in reality, you're drawing attention to yourself and the deeds.
And how good you are.
Yes.
Yes, and you've put on this white robe.
That's why I say it's a political move. The reality of the situation is simply this. We can only speculate as to the reasons and the wherefores about such issues. The details of the discussions that have taken place and what has happened, even what we've read in the media, it's what we're allowed to see and understand. The discussions that actually take place and the understandings, those are never really in the public domain. We can juxtapose, we can figure out, we can add 2 and 2 together and come up with some binary fraction or whatever it is that we come up with. But the truth of the matter is, when things play out this way, even as we speculate, we still do not know the full story. We don't know. But we only discuss what we see, what we suppose, and what we can glean out of what we have seen.
They normally say that if you reach for you reach for the moon, even if you miss, you're going to land on the stars. So again, I'm still on this.
The stars are actually beyond the moon.
Well, you're going to land on something. That's for sure.
If you reach for the stars.
If you reach for the stars, you land on the moon. Voila. Yes. Okay. So in this case, even if the request is not granted to Musyoka, right? What have you done? Is that you've put yourself in a position whereby you were ready to sacrifice something for somebody else. So you come out smelling like a rose. So whether or not they would have said, actually, you know what, we can give you this. Or even if in the coming days you hear, okay, that's a ridiculous request that you have made, guess what? You come out looking like the person who was ready to take responsibility for the actions of this individual. So guess what happens tomorrow? When you come and tell your people, you know what? I actually want to be the person that's going to lead you. That's what they remember. And I think it's actually brilliant politics on his part.
Yes, it is. Mike movie Sonko is not your average garden variety politician. No, he's not. You cannot garner the sort of votes that man garnered in this wonderful city of ours and this wonderful county of ours, and then you take him lightly.
You got to take him seriously.
He got more votes than every other presidential candidate other than Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes.
So you have to take him seriously.
Oh, look, it is foolhardy not to take him seriously. Now, that having been said, I'm parking it on the side of the road and I'm going on to yet another discussion. I'm saying that doesn't also detract from the fact that some of the things that he's being accused of may very well hold water. That's why we have a court of law. That's why we have these processes. When somebody is that popular, it is very easy to attach that terrorism case
to him.
Yes, because he does have a following. It's not difficult to attach it.
It isn't.
As to whether that is true or not, that is what we hope to see.
All right. Well, let's hear from Yegon this morning. Yegon, good morning, and how are you? Hello, Yegon.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fine. How about City?
I'm well, my brother. How have you been? It's a long time since we heard from you.
Yes, I was to call when you were discussing about Mike Songo, but the line was so long.
Ah, right, yeah.
But you can discuss it now.
No, I cannot discuss it now. I can discuss about Kalonzo.
Yes, please. Please
I would
go
really
ahead.
have wanted to know what you wanted to say about one Mbuvi Sonko.
Okay, about one book is Mike Songo, yeah?
Yes.
I think he himself just took himself to the court and prosecuted himself. By declaring that I was part of those who are attacking violence in 2017. That's a self-declaration. You don't need evidence. So the government now is to look for the co-accusers to find them if they are killed. And at that time, I wanted to talk to William Samuel, the director. Why is it that he aligns himself with every dirty person?
Why do you say that you're gone?
Because Songo, Songo has his or her own bad drug record. He knows what happens at the city hall. The guy has been out insulting the president. Now the president, you are here supporting that this is my boss, what was General Rais, and you are still aligning yourself with somebody who is insulting Rais. That is double speaking.
It is.
And hiyo inatujomea kabisa.
It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good because yesterday I was following the Kabarak event. This thing is of 2022 might turn upside down the way I'm thinking.
It's a big possibility. That one is for sure.
And why are you thinking that you're gone?
Because right now we have clean candidates.
Yes.
With few words. Like Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, the other day Oparanya was declaring himself. These are men with few words. Not just because we say that somebody who speaks less leave us mostly. Like Kibaki, these guys are like now, because right now we need a Kibaki type president.
Yeah.
We don't need somebody who speaks too much about something which cannot achieve. So the way Kalonzo is aligning himself, by the way, Kalonzo is a diplomat.
Oh, yes, he is.
It is only that we are still voting based on tribal line.
That's unfortunate.
But yes, but if today we shun away from voting tribal lines, Kalonzo and Musalia are good leaders.
Well,
forget about my other friend.
Thanks for your insights, Yegon Asante Sana. The conversation continues. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're going to take a look at what's happening on the roads now and see where it's easy to traverse or not.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, unfortunately, we had another accident on Thika Road this morning, not looking really good on what's happening there. So that has slowed things down some. And guys are asking, why is there still traffic around Roysambu? Well, it's because of that. That accident has taken place, and so we have traffic outbound and inbound on Thika Road as well. This has not been a good week for Thika Road. Kiambu Road's looking a little bit better now as you approach Muthaiga Square. Getting out of Westlands also, there was a problem there, but looking much better now. All right, Limuru Road also is opened up into the city, and going through to Wangari Maathai Road is a much easier way to get through. Mombasa Road, still slow, and that's as you join with the Uhuru Highway, but after that it should be all right. Let's see how Friday opens up, guys. Please be careful as much as you can going into the weekend. Spice FMKE on Twitter, that's how you can reach us, or text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive, and of course Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. The 80s have never sounded so good.
My favorite songs of the 1980s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
We continue the conversations in the Situation Room this morning, wherever you're tuned in from today across the country. In the studio this morning, Nduoko and CT Muga. And we're looking at the intrigues that keep playing out when we look at things like this. And for me, as we look at this, CT, it's very clear to me that there is nothing that will be spared when it comes to the gain or the race for political expediency. That nobody's going to spare anything. You can even put yourself down as the mat upon which people will walk on. You will put yourself there as a sacrificial lamb. You will say you are the one who can save the situation to be able to get your name in the minds of people. Because it will not be that you are the one who did anything specific. It will be that your name is the one that would be remembered when it came to the salvation of someone. And even if that salvation did not work, it would be that you tried. And based on the fact that you tried, that is more than enough to consider you for that seat. But I've got to say that it was actually very well played. Unfortunately, in terms of how far it will take him, as Kalonzo Musyoka, we can't really say that. But it's interesting what Abu Jamal says. It amazes me how Kalonzo has just realized that Sonko's history and character has been shady over 20 years now. The two have never been together, not one party, not ideas, reasoning, or whatsoever. I am of the opinion that Kalonzo wants to play a regional card here. Yegon said this just as we went, is that unfortunately, people are going to vote on tribal lines. People still will vote on tribal lines. And here we have a senior politician, seasoned politician, as you said, bringing in that tribal card here and saying, you know what, here I am, standing here squeaky clean. This guy is from our backyard. Allow me to be able to rein him in and sort it out.
There's nothing like a squeaky clean politician, okay?
No?
No.
But this is the image that he was presenting himself with when he was speaking to the president yesterday. And for all avoidance of doubt, he was not speaking to anybody else. He was not speaking to you. Not speaking he was speaking to the president as one who could be able to save the situation. See me as this clean vessel through which the salvation of this young man can be delivered. I will be the one to help him. Just give him to me, not anybody else. He didn't say give him to us. He didn't say I formed a committee. He said me. He was presenting himself as the one who could do this. That he is the one who has been trusted in so many things previously. Give him to me and I'll deal with it. In his mind, he doesn't have anything.
Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is a politician, okay? And as I said, a seasoned one. He would know the mileage you gain from such a thing, because there are people, and those people are many, who support Mike Mbuvi Sonko's cause. Look, when I say there is no politician who is squeaky clean, what do I mean? The duplicitous yardstick by which we judge people, the moralistic values that we place on people extends to politicians. And unfortunately, this is where the duplicity comes in. On the one hand, we condemn certain things, but on the one hand, we support it when someone we like espouses the same traits that we were condemning in yet another. That's why I said there is no such thing. Until one day, and that day won't come, but let's just talk about that day, when we can understand the yardstick by which we are going to judge the politicians. As of now, what we do, it's the moralistic judgment that is born out of the religious understandings that we have. Okay? And unfortunately, politicians really fall short of that particular yardstick. Yes. Why am I saying only politicians? Even religious leaders fall short. And they should, because they're human beings. When you are led by human beings, they will have mistakes and you will see them. Some make a good show of trying to overcome those weaknesses of theirs, and we laud them for it. But it's part of the journey that we have as human beings, trying to overcome ourselves, really. Trying to be, when you say you're trying to be better, it means you're trying to improve on yourself, the thing that you are. So, when we talk about politicians and what they are likely to do, well, the example you're giving of Kalonzo Musyoka is just yet another example of how politicians will go about their business. An opportunity has arisen. Mike Mbuvi Sonko has the means and the wherewithal to get himself out of this pickle.
You think?
I know.
No, CT, come on. Don't you think that at least, or you think he's just laying low for now and then you using whatever machinery or arsenal he has to come against this? He can.
To have been in a position where he ended up governor of Nairobi, he can.
Yeah, but now you have the state. You have the state.
He can.
You have the state now that he's working to make sure that you answer for your alleged crimes.
Let me explain to you what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that he is not a spent force.
He's not going to get away with this one.
I'm trying to tell you he is not a spent force. He is not someone who you can consign to some dustbin somewhere. Well, not yet.
Well, it looks like now all the trappings of power seem to have been removed from him. So he's just like everybody else on the street. That you don't have the support that you normally would, whereby you would walk about and do whatever you wanted.
He isn't.
CT.
He isn't like everybody. Everybody has never been governor. Everybody has never been senator. Everybody has never been an MP.
Yeah, but those titles right now, do they matter still? When you're sitting in the dock, CT. When you're sitting in the dock and that magistrate is making a decision as to what concerns your life, she's not looking at whether you are governor, senator, or whatever.
Really?
She's not looking at what you've done or what you've alleged to have done. It would seem as if now he's What did they say yesterday? Well, we have not been able to settle this matter. They could have settled it real quick and fast and in a hurry. They could have settled it. Okay, bail, yes, no, move. But what did they say? Yeah, we're still deliberating about it. Another court said the same thing on a different charge. Said the same thing.
Would they say the same thing if it was someone else other than...
If he was still sitting...
No, if it was someone else.
No, if he was still sitting in the governor's position. Last time, when he was being granted bail, how long did it take before he was granted his bail? And it was a clear-cut decision. Okay, you're out. You may sit on bail and we continue. Trial will be named for a certain date. Now, suddenly, we are not sure how, if, when we can grant you bail. We're still sitting around it and we'll think about it. We can't give the reasons as to why because they also don't know the reasons as to why and we can't discuss that. However, it looks as though a decision has not been taken because you know what? Now, you're just like everybody else. Sit there a while we figure this out. Before a decision would have been granted, CT, he would have been out on bail.
We want you to get a feeling of what it is to be treated like everybody else. He is not like everybody else. This is what the point I'm trying to make. It's really not a complicated point. He isn't.
He's not like everybody else.
No, he isn't.
But it would seem as though now we're trying to make you feel like everybody else.
Yes.
And that is the position that you're going to take now permanently.
I would actually want to discuss this because if you're being treated like everybody else, we are saying there's a disparity in our legal system.
Oh, there is.
Yes.
There is. The same system that people go and steal billions of shillings in this country and they walk about free, and somebody steals a chicken and is in jail for 10 years. Same system, same country.
They are declared thieves when the court decides that they have actually stolen. All right? Was it not this morning that we were discussing matters pertaining to the Ministry of Sports, where our money, 330 million of it, was used on some promotion for some sports football activity, lo and behold, something magical happened. The money disappeared. Lo and behold, all the activities related to that particular money also disappeared. Lo and behold, the people who are supposed to bring about this development and to whom the money was paid to also disappeared. Now, is that
the entire
not
office gone?
Yes, is that not a perfect disappearing act? Everything disappeared. And then the person who was in that ministry, under whose docket this happened, the PS, he also disappeared from that ministry and went to another ministry. But the good thing is still in Kenya, so he hasn't fully disappeared. Everybody else has disappeared. Okay? Had he also disappeared, it would have been a complete disappearing act. Now, we cannot accuse the man of anything. We can only say that when he was PS in this particular ministry, this is what happened. As to the details, that we leave to people who have the authority and the means to determine what, if any, his involvement was. And if there were other people who were involved in this. For such a thing to happen, usually they are. So, we hold our judgment. The same with Mike Mbuvi Sonko. He is in court. If it had been determined that it was true, my friend, even if you're caught with a gun in a bank holding a bag full of money, you're still taken to court. Okay? You have a gun, you have a bag, and there's money, and it isn't your money. And you're walking out, and you are arrested. You're still taken to court. Mike Mbuvi Sonko didn't have a gun. He didn't have a bag of money. He wasn't in a bank. He wasn't trying to rob a bank. He is in court. So let's wait for the outcome.
So that's the thing. So we wait and see what is going to happen.
Oh, yes.
The intrigues of the same still playing out interestingly well. We'll take a few more of your calls as we continue with this conversation, but we're going to do that when we come back from a break. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique, the official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
There's so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande hii umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is the only way to start your day. You're tuned in across the country and online as well to The Situation Room. Nduoko and CT Muga in the studio this morning. And we're looking at the intrigues of the politics around certain decisions that are being made. We're going to take a few more of your calls as we round things out this morning. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
Yes, about Kalonzo. I won't even talk about him. He's an opportunist.
Oh, okay.
That is all I can say about him. He waits for opportunities, and that is where he could have made a very good leader. But he shall never be if he's been waiting for opportunities. Come to Sonko. Like you were saying before, running a government takes a lot of it has a lot of heat on the president. We don't know what he goes through. Running a country has a lot of secrets. There are some things that are done to make sure things work out right. We don't have to know.
Yeah.
Someone like Mike Sonko, having been there near the president, knows a lot of these secrets. The way he's been opening his mouth of late, he's a man not to be trusted. Someone has to shut him up. And I think that is what the government are doing. Mike Sonko will not stay in jail. But this is being done to shut him up. They are doing the best they can so that they can shut him up, so that he can stop this yapping he's doing. Because you have to be a gentleman. And to be a leader, you have to carry yourself with a lot of decorum. And that is exactly the thing that got him out of that office. Let him not start blaming other people, saying his words are on other people. It is his own mouth, his actions. In fact, I've been a big supporter of Sonko.
And then
He
what
has
happened?
a goodwill. He has a goodwill to serve the people of Nairobi. He has done a lot of good things, hospitals and everything. He has built all those things. But now when it comes to that office, the chair, he has no decorum. He's not fit for that office, the way he carries himself out.
All right.
The way he's been opening his mouth. In fact, I would want the deputy president to distance himself from Sonko. He's a man not to be trusted, and he has proved himself that.
Thank you for those sentiments, Anthony. Let's hear now from Meshach in Baraton. Good morning, Meshach.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? I'm
going
going to ask you,
Meshach, I'm from Baraton University.
All right, Meshach, I'm going to ask you to turn down the volume on your radio so that we can hear you a little better. All right.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to contribute about Mike Mbuvi Sonko's situation currently.
Yes.
I really find it misguided. I mean, the belief that when a political class is facing the law, now everybody, a good number of people are saying that this gentleman or this woman here is being humiliated is totally misguided. The issue is in the court, and I think it's very prudent that we really allow the court to give it to verdict. I know in the fullness of time, we really shall know the truth. Yes, again, about what the statements that former Vice President Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka did say. That statement reminds me of Koigi Wamwere's writing in some of his books that as long as my kinsman is a thief, but he's a thief. I mean, if somebody is being tried in the court of law, why do you get out in the public and say, you leave him for me? That is so unbecoming, specifically for Stephen Kalonzo, who is a lawyer by profession. So, when we are going to have leaders that when we are a certain leader from their community is being tried and they say, leave this gentleman, leave this specific person for me, then it means we are having leaders who don't respect the law. It means we are having leaders who really respect the law in words, but not in action. This famous adage, action speaks louder than words. Why don't they put it in practice?
That's very interesting.
Finally, Mike Mbuvi Sonko.
Yes.
Dear Mbuvi Sonko, your damnation lumbereth not. Thank you so much, Spider.
Thank you, Meshach. Thanks for your sentiments this morning. Let's look at some more of the comments that are coming in on socials today. Sir Allington Victor says Sonko has paid the ultimate price of being a criminal in a political mafia system. Okay. He's been subdued and arm twisted by the cartels against his own criminal record. He had no otherwise but to surrender. Integrity is paramount in a leader. Kamal Anthony says these are normal occurrences that happen to normal human beings. The only difference is that it is happening to a normal human who doubles as a misguided, unintelligent politician.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Strong adjectives.
I know. Beatrice Wanjiro says, yes, it is political. Some people want to be worshipped as though they are God and holier than the rest. Respect is earned, not demanded. Arrogance is what is done to the likes of Maraga, to judges, revisit, etc., like the woman at the well. So, I mean, here again is what we're looking at. All this is coming from his upbringing, according to Adan Yambok. From childhood, education, friends, bad habits, and abusers of ladies. Now the president, he should carry his own cross. Okay, so a lot of sentiments coming out there. And I mean, here we are saying, regardless of what it is, he needs to face it. Meshach said something that was very interesting, that you come out saying that hand this person over to me and I can sort them out. That means you don't have a regard for the law. That means you think that you can circumvent the law and just have a conversation about how things should be, which I know there's the old adage that there's nothing that cannot be sorted out through the art of conversation. But in this case, a little bit more serious than that, right? Some of the charges that we are seeing. Is it something that can just be talked away? And that's basically what you're telling Kenyans, that there is a space that has been provided, or even if it's makeshift imaginary space that has been created by people in a particular class that allows you to stay out of the circumference of the law and let us have a conversation where every other ordinary Kenyan would have to face the law. And I think those are some of the things that we need to be looking at and saying, should that class be so protected that you can even start to have conversations about this thing, whereby you can say somebody is alleged to have broken the law, a crime here, a crime there, but please, because he's from my backyard, let me have a conversation with him. Shouldn't that kind of privilege be accorded then to everybody?
Actually, you're looking at it as privilege, and I'm looking at it as a mindset. When we began talking about this particular issue, one of the things that I said I want to bring into the conversation is the mindset of who we as Kenyans believe a leader should be and how that leader should present themselves. And you will find that there are those who believe that what Kalonzo Musyoka is doing is the correct thing. He is becoming a leader and he's embracing people from his community and proving that he's the sort of person the go-to person who can solve things. Just like there are those who believe that Mike Mbuvi Sonko is a man who you can go to with a problem and he will listen and he will solve it. And once people believe that, anything else that anyone says about you, they don't really care, they don't really want to hear. No.
But for
How
you,
is that important as far as they're concerned?
Oh, but look at it, like this is a situation that's being brought about here. Like when you used to be a teacher, CT, headmaster, I was
a teacher before I became a headmaster.
Teacher, then headmaster, right?
Yes.
And you saw different experiences.
Yes.
So now a student misbehaves in a teacher's class and you got to know about it. Would you allow, in some cases, would you not say, bring this student to me? Let me deal with it the way you would normally deal with it, or the way allow me to deal with it because I can sort out this.
Actually, that is the wrong way to go about it.
Did you ever do that?
No, that's the wrong way to go about it because you are then communicating to that student, other students, that this particular teacher is not able to solve their problems. You'd rather talk to the teacher to the procedures you follow. Make sure you've done A, B, C, D before you bring the case to me. So that the student also knows that you have done what you can, but the point at which this matter has reached, it now has to go to a higher authority. That's how it's done. But if you take over the functions of a class teacher, you've disempowered that teacher.
So if you take over the functions of the law, in this case, by having a conversation, you've disempowered the law and you've basically removed the strength and the respect of the law in the eyes of so many other people who would then say, well, goodness me, anybody can do what they want and there will be somebody to speak on their behalf.
If you were to talk about the law, you'll have set a precedent. Next, someone will say, but so-and-so is in trouble. Why isn't so-and-so intervening on their behalf? But why do we say this? Because we actually believe that that's how things should be done. The concept of a godfather is entrenched in our psyche. It's entrenched in our psyche when people look for jobs. It's entrenched, knowing someone, as we call it. It's entrenched in our political setting. It's entrenched. There is no pretending. There is no running away from it and calling it something else. It's entrenched. Do you know someone who is here? Do you know someone? It's something that every Kenyan understands and resonates with. Now, all that we've done now is carried it onto the political field. And I'm saying Kalonzo Musyoka is a wily politician. He's a seasoned politician. This is an opportunity, and he took the opportunity kudos to him.
He knows exactly.
Good move.
Exactly.
Politically speaking, good move.
He knows exactly what he's doing. All right. So we're coming to the end of this discussion that we've been having this morning in the Situation Room, all the way from 6 a.m. And you've been with us, and we don't take that for granted. CT, as we round things out this morning, remind us of today's proverb and then open it up for us a little bit.
He who fears the sun will not become chief. You see, anytime we talk about shining the light on something, the reference is actually the truth. Letting the truth not be hidden. The pretense that it doesn't exist is removed and you see it in its naked form for what it actually is. In many cases, people don't like to be told things they don't want to hear, whether they are true or not. But more so if it is true, and more so if it doesn't shine a flattering light on you. If it doesn't flatter, if it doesn't sound good, then people don't want to hear it. It's then given a twist and given a meaning that is considered negative. In the political terms, so-and-so is against, and all they have done is said, this is this. They're not against, they've just spoken. The speaking the truth is often seen as anti, against. Now, what this proverb is trying to point out to, if you do not like facing the strong glare of the truth, you will not become a leader. Or if you think you are, then you are not.
Wow.
And if you think you are, now this is me saying you're half-baked.
You've not been out in the sun just enough.
No, you haven't been in the sun. If I was polite, I would say you haven't been sun-kissed adequately.
Adequately.
Yes.
Right. Brings us to the end of the conversation today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and also, bringing in your insights. We don't take it for granted. Thank you for being part of the Situation Room this week. We're going to start again and do this again next week. Nduoko Siti Muga saying goodbye for today, and we're going to leave you in the able hands of some great music throughout today. Spice Soul through to 3 p.m. where Monique is going to come in and drive you home into the weekend until 7 o'clock, and then the adults in the room are going to come in at 7 to 10. Some deep conversations about love and relationships and other things that matter in the family way. So once again, thank you for being with us here on The Situation. We really do appreciate you. The conversation continues as we go into next week. Remember, you need to be safe. We sometimes forget that COVID exists. CT, say goodbye.